Gaming news today is all about Bungie, and the burning question now has become, can they save both Marathon and Destiny? The two franchises are not in a strong position, and after the recent Sony earnings call, Paul Tassi from Forbes sees the company at a crossroads. And given the hard numbers, it is difficult to imagine what the future holds for the company. I already outlined in a video how the true valuation of the company is not $3.6 billion, but actually $2.4 billion. That means the recent impairment loss of close to $800 million means that the company's value has essentially been lowered by about a third of what it was at the point of purchase. Now, basically what this means is they will likely be facing down some sort of restructuring, downsizing, layoffs, and that also means Paul Tassi from Forbes is probably correct. If the company has to shrink by any degree, you will not be able to justify working on and supporting two different games, especially when both of those games are in such a sharp decline. This obviously begs the question, which franchise should they choose? An argument could be made for Marathon, right? It's the newer game. If you're going to strip the company down to a more lean size, well, why not push the newer product? Now, the pushback would obviously be that, well, Marathon kind of feels like a lame duck. It doesn't seem like it's doing all that well. The record lows continue to happen each week, with the off-peak low points on Steam now hitting around 3,000 players. And just this week alone, they're barely getting over 10,000 players at their highest point. And that is where most of the players are, according to Tassi. Now, regardless of what you think about the game or how much fun that you're having, those numbers cannot be translating into strong revenue streams. Even if the game can somehow survive with a small core, like maybe just they get this very small, very loyal core of players, and the game keeps going and the game keeps getting content, well, that small core will almost assuredly not spend enough money for more than half of an 800-employee studio to continue working on it. So what about making a case for Destiny 2? Right? Can they have a 3.0 moment, since their 2.0 moment has basically already happened? Now, internally, it might make sense, right? They have existing assets, they have existing content they can use, and they have teams that could probably just sort of crank up the fires and get Destiny 2 going again, while maybe you just let Marathon sort of coast and die. But the pushback would be, well, that ship has sailed as well. Destiny 2's time is coming to an end. The public and the player base have largely just sort of moved on. So with both of their current games looking too weak to generate enough revenue to warrant major investments, well, one option remains. Well, there's actually two options, but the big option that many people are thinking about is Destiny 3. The initial pushback to a Destiny 3 is probably similar to what folks would say about Destiny 2. Hey, that ship has sailed. Folks have moved on from the Destiny franchise. Now, I would say, given a proper and lengthy development cycle, combined with a good bit of silence, they could regain the public's attention and interest. You have to go away. You have to be quiet. I would even work on rebuilding the Bungie image. That means you need new leadership. I think you need a whole new community team. You have to put a new face to the company, and you need that new community team to have good media training and good standards for how they interact with the public. Your public-facing team needs to be far more professional and far more tactful and, talking less often. I also think they need a new engine. Their bandwidth and their size has never really seemed to line up with their ability to update, iterate, and create Destiny content. I think it all comes back to the engine. It's just too slow, and it always has been. Now, we know PlayStation wants live service games. If there's a game that deserves a true and genuine shot, and I mean like actual true genuine shot here, proper funding, 4 to 5 years of development time, uninterrupted development time, so they're not stymied by having to support Destiny 2 or Marathon. That's what I mean when I say a genuine shot. If you actually give Destiny 3 a genuine shot, I believe that could be the game that lets Bungie continue and gives PlayStation what they want, a successful live service game. Marathon and Destiny 2 simply don't deserve that level of investment or time or bandwidth. They don't even deserve that level of trust. The confidence is just not there. They both, in my opinion, both Marathon and Destiny 2, they've had their shot. The numbers aren't there. There's absolutely no way these games are generating enough revenue to justify their furthered existence. there is another option that some people have thrown out there, which is a whole new IP. I think this would be harder because you could speculate about how well it could have more pull and more power. It could be that fresh coat of paint that Bungie needs, but you would essentially be only relying on Bungie's name at that point, and Bungie's name is rather sullied. At this point, I think Destiny is a stronger, thing. Now, there's a community train happening on Twitch right now. I have no idea what that means, so guys, go crazy. I've never seen that one before. Here's the thing, though. There's one other option. I'm going to throw this one out there, okay? And I initially disagreed with this. Astacross and many others are now big proponents of a Destiny classic. Well, after my wife played the first 2 hours of Destiny 1 last week, we did a little members thing. You guys hit a goal. That's on the stream right now. It's a public video on YouTube. You can watch her play the first couple hours of Destiny 1. I have to say, I think he's right. I think anybody pushing for a Destiny Classic, I initially disagreed. I was like, I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea. I actually think they could pull it off. And here's the thing. I think I would agree with some caveats. I think a Destiny Classic would have to be seen as the franchise starting over. You could use all the content from Destiny 1, Destiny 2. That could allow you to maybe bide your time. The development of that content would probably not be as demanding as an entirely new game, and then you could build a proper and true Destiny 3, but that would essentially just be the extension of the game that you're already building. It wouldn't be called Destiny 3. The entire game and the entire project would simply be called Destiny. That would justify the investment. That would justify having this Destiny Classic to sort of start things over. And they have a massive amount of content to use as long as they haven't killed it like apparently they did with the Red War. But you've got story, you've got strikes, you've got planets, you've got raids, you've got dungeons from over 12 years of content. It's an absurd amount of content. Astacross's example was he pointed to classic RuneScape. And I think that might be informative here. Perhaps a classic Destiny fanbase core is just what the doctor ordered to give this game that strong start, that strong foundation. But it could also be just what you need to open the door and get more people to come in that maybe didn't play Destiny 1 or Destiny 2. There's also something more special about Destiny 1 if they can kind of go back there and recapture those vibes. With the long cast vision as well, that listen, this is what we're doing for the long haul. We're going to build our way to what could have been Destiny 3. They could build the true MMO looter shooter that we've always believed that they could build. Now, this, of course, would require, I think, again, a new engine. It's got to be more agile. You need a heavy investment as well as a trusting period from PlayStation, which, listen, for Sony, this might be a bridge too far, especially with the devaluation of the company. But Lin Tao, CFO of Sony, didn't just speak publicly, she spoke internally. She did indicate they have applied lessons learned here, and they're going to continue to take a disciplined approach to their investments. Now, that could spell trouble for Bungie. That disciplined approach to investments could mean trimming, could mean downsizing. It could mean, hey, we're really going to clamp down on Bungie over there. But it could also mean that they want the company to be in a stronger place. The impairment could honestly be designed to lower that final payout that we know is coming. Part of me feels that Marathon was literally shipped in a rushed way as leadership was hoping to rest on the Bungie name and rest on their laurels and get a bunch of sales and raise the company's revenue and subsequently raise their value to help with that final payout. Well, the joke's on them. That clearly has not happened, and perhaps with enough of those leaders leaving, their substantive salaries would be, I think, hopefully large enough to shoulder a lot of the impairment loss. Now, that could lead to a solid restructuring in future for Bungie. If you get rid of a lot of leadership, suddenly their cost of operations could go down rather quickly. Some of those people have been there a long time, and they're probably collecting pretty big salaries. So, listen, whatever the future is for Bungie, I believe it's behind one game, not multiple. I don't think they can continue doing two games at once. I agree with Tassi on this. And that game, I think, for the future of Bungie, is going to be Destiny in some form or fashion. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys. Welcome on in. There's 20 seconds left on the community train over there. I don't even understand what that is. I've never seen that. It says unlock an emote. Did they rename hype trains to community trains? because we've always been able to unlock an emote from a hype train. That's a very weird thing to do. Make sure you guys are going through the daily ritual of hitting the like button. Listen, the news cycle's slow. I'll be honest with you guys. GTA 6 has everybody in a holding pattern. Everybody's just kind of waiting to see if that stinking trailer drops. And because of that, we are basically getting almost virtually no gaming news. Now, yes, there was the speculation from Alinea Analytics. They're speculating that Soros is at about 300,000 sales. I'm not quite sure why everybody says that's slower than Returnal. We don't know what Returnal was at in 2 weeks. We know in 2 months that Returnal was a little over 500,000 or 560,000. So they're past halfway to that in 2 weeks. I don't know. I think people are maybe jumping the gun on concern there. I don't think it's that concerning for a game of that size. I do think maybe they shouldn't have had it priced the way that they did. That probably hurt it. But that's pretty much the only major piece of news I saw, and that's Alinea Analytics. We ran with that with Marathon only because Paul Tassi corroborated the claims. I typically don't run with those speculative analytics. I wait for either the actual Circana reports or wait for the company themselves to speak to it. Save Destiny, call the garbage truck and the garbage can that is Marathon is getting full. I just think the issue with Marathon's not even about whether or not you like the game or whether or not it's a fun game anymore. I just think the facts are it's just not going to generate enough revenue. That's going to be the main issue. And Destiny's headed in the same direction. Destiny's headed in a direction where it's just not going to generate enough revenue. Bungie's going to have to come up with some kind of a plan to build something new. Now, whether that's a new IP, whether that's Destiny 3, whether they do something that's Destiny Classic, they need something that's going to generate a lot of revenue because they're just too large of a company. You've got, 800-something employees. You need to have something in play. Now, there are companies underneath PlayStation's ownership that spend 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 years working on projects. So Destiny could certainly put them into that period and say, all right, listen, you need to be building something. We're going to set you up. This is what the budget is. This is what your operational costs are, and this is how long you have to build it. And in that time frame, I think you see Destiny 2, coast down into end of life. I think Destiny 2's got to get to that point where it's like, listen, we can't keep adding to this game. Destiny 2 came out 12 years ago, so I can't see Destiny 2 being a part of their future as far as like revenue plans. Like if they're trying to get back to like, oh hey, we have good revenue coming in, I don't think that comes from Destiny 2, that is. Congrats on the Rahul interview. I appreciate that. If you guys missed it, I got to interview Rahul Kohli. He came on the show yesterday. I wasn't sure if it was going to be able to happen. I hit him up on Instagram. He said, yeah, sure, tomorrow around noon. And then that was the last I heard from him. And he had sent me his Discord friend name, and so I was just waiting for him to accept the friend request. And then he did, and I was like, okay, we're good to go. I didn't want to announce it and then have it not happen, because everybody's schedules can shift and move, and we hadn't really conversed all that much. So that is on the channel. If you missed it, you can go back and watch it. There are spoilers in there. We get into major story spoilers, but there was no way I wasn't going to chop up the story with him. It's concerning, though. It's not on PC. It won't have a new audience. If you're talking about Soros, I don't know if that's going to be PlayStation's response. That was never their goal with PC. I think so many people are misdiagnosing everything about PlayStation because they make really bad presumptions about why they were putting games on PC. To continue to have to go back and explain to people what PlayStation's goal was with putting their IPs on PC, it was never being like, oh yeah, if they don't sell well enough, we'll take them over there. That was never the goal. That was never the stated purpose of going to PC. The stated purpose was taking 10 pulls over there later to hopefully maybe coax people over to the PlayStation ecosystem. So I don't think there's an internal analysis that PlayStation's doing that's like, well, if the game doesn't sell well enough, we can always port it over to PC. Especially because Returnal didn't do well. Returnal didn't do well on PC. I don't think that they would be trying to pull that ripcord, and I don't think Soros would have done particularly well over there either. I don't think the game vibes with people the way that many people thought it was going to. They opened it up, they made it more approachable, they made it more accessible to the common player, but I still think the difficulty of Returnal and the difficulty nature of Rogues is probably hanging over its head. I also think the price point hurt it. It's like, it was never going to be a chart topper. I said that yesterday. I was like, if within the first year they can get over 1 million in sales, I think they'll probably be pleased with that. They're already a third of the way there after 2 weeks. I would say they're not in terrible territory. I think people are really exaggerating what they expected from a studio that size and a project that size. I do not think PlayStation's worried that a game they purchased, Housemarque, after Returnal had sold about 500,000 copies in 2 months. This game is past that halfway point after 2 weeks. I don't think PlayStation has the expectations that the console warriors on Twitter do. I don't think that PlayStation's like, oh my gosh, we got to close you down. You didn't get 1 million sales in 3 days. Yo, Bro Sexy with 47 months. Let's get the goal up on the board. Thank you so much. That's 93. It's awesome you got to interview Rahul. I have to get back to it later as to you got into spoilers, and I haven't been able to touch the game yet. Hopefully soon. Count it. Count it. I'm counting it. Guys, it's Wednesday. We're not at 100 yet. We are well behind goal. This is a week where I'm going out of town next week, so if we want to go a little crazy, I've got like a double header goal for you. Madam and I will do 2 nights. Friday and Saturday, we'll play that Directive 80-20 game. You guys, we like to play those games with you guys, those spooky ones. The budget was $70 million. They'll be fine. Yeah, I think people are losing their heads. Like, I don't think PlayStation's going to make a choice based off of 2 weeks of sales. The analysis of the sales could be a little low. Who knows? It could be right on target. I don't typically run with that company's stuff because they've been wrong before. Even when we covered Marathon's numbers, I literally said, I typically don't run with these guys' numbers because they've been wrong in the past. The only reason I ran with their numbers is I said, you can go back and watch my coverage, I said, is because Paul Tassi corroborated the numbers and said the 1.2 million in sales for Marathon was on target. And it's also a completely different comparison because Marathon needs a big and full player funnel. It's a live service game. It also was significantly more expensive and came from Bungie, not Housemarque. Like, they're not, if you're going to compare the games, I mean, you could just buy a t-shirt that says I make bad faith arguments and save us all the trouble. Like, that is not a comparison to make. That'd be like comparing Astrobot sales to, Spider-Man. It'd be like, yeah, you're not going to get similar sales. They're not similar franchises with similar marketing funnels, budgets, or approaches, or, perceived popularity. Adam comes in with 25 months and a member plus. Thank you so much. And then Joker Quinn bumps the line to 95. We're 5 away. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. Okay, Parasito with 42 months bumps it to 96. Bungie should take a play from the Forza book and accidentally release the DCV and then ban people for a few thousand years for playing it. Yeah, banning people for playing the Forza League. That was something. That was amazing. So yeah, the situation with Bungie, the reason we're covering this is because Tassi basically comes out and he's like, you can only save one game. You can only save one game. Oh, you did one right when I went live? I'm sorry, Joker Quinn. I didn't see that one. Let me refresh my page up here, and then I'll get my fan funding so I don't miss anything else. And thank you, Joker Quinn. So we're now at 90. We're now at 97. But, as I read through what he was saying, it did genuinely feel like, yeah, they're at a crossroads. I think they're going to have to make a decision about where they decide to go. Thank you, AOZ. I appreciate that. It was a really fun interview. Good morning, gangs over there on Twitch. I appreciate it. I think they're going to have to make a decision. Like, we don't need to debate Marathon's player counts anymore. It's more about, okay, Bungie's going to have to make a choice here. I think they either, if they dig down in the Marathon, I think they're going to have to add significant portions of content that aren't even extraction or PvP. I think they'll have to create a Marathon game. Like an actual game. Not just like, oh, this is Marathon the extraction game, but like, this is Marathon the game, like the universe. Yo, Broken Earth comes in with 2 singles. I know what he's going to do. Boom and boom. He wants to land this plane on his own at 100 members, and there it is. That's the first 100 of the week. I owe YouTube Joker Quinn the Ruiner always ruins it. but he was a little too slow, and so he's the agent of chaos and pushes us to 101. Let me go ahead and gift one now. That's a great reason to be here every day. Guys, make sure as you're coming in, you're hitting that like button. That helps out. I mean, what would your preference be? I know a lot of the marathon guys stopped coming around because they didn't appreciate the coverage, even though it was infrequent. The conversation admittedly didn't really go anywhere. It was like, numbers look bad. I'm having fun. Okay, we don't have much to say. We can move past that. Now what do you want them to do? You know, did the marathon fans think, straight face with an honest eye, do you honestly think they can dig down and say, no, marathon's our game? Like, we trim down, we downsize, they get to a more lean operational size. Do you think marathon's their game going forward? Or do you think they either need a new IP? Do they need a Destiny Classic? Do they need Destiny 3? Like, I don't even know if the marathon fans are putting up that fight anymore. It's like, yeah, this thing's probably not going to make it. It just doesn't seem to have it. Zubair says, remake the original marathon game for Mac. If they can add a couple more maps and different enemy types. I'll take marathon over Destiny. I've done like 10 years of Destiny. I'm sure there's plenty of people that feel that way, Brett. It's like, listen, man, I've gone the distance with Destiny. I don't need any more Destiny. Like, dig in on marathon. Do something with marathon. I could totally see a lot of fans feeling that way. I could see fans feeling the other way, being like, it's clear it's time for Destiny 3. What did you guys do this for, you know? What did you guys do this for? Give me 1 second. Sorry, my allergies are acting up. I don't want to sit here and sneeze and sniffle all on the mic for you guys all show. So I'm trying to spare you of that. Just stepping away for half a second. TJ says, I want dedicated marathon and Destiny studio breakup. Now there's a suggestion. You think just break them up into two different studios so one's not pulling from the other. All right. Even after 10 years, Destiny's far more interesting, says Realm Rex. I bet they split what we know as Bungie right into two, and they split into Marathon and Destiny. I mean, that could potentially make it a little bit easier to assess value, assess operational costs, assess revenue and profit. I mean, you want to spin off a small team to keep Marathon going. Okay, you know, maybe you do that. I don't know. A Zyrtec plug. Zubair says, remake Destiny, but change the characters and aliens, change the plot, change the activities. I think one of the reasons Destiny Classic is appealing as an idea is because people like Destiny 1. They're like, that's such a classic time, that's such a great game. I don't know if you completely change the game, if it would have... I don't know about y'all, but I don't know how much of a draw it would have. Like, it would have a draw to me because... You know, I'm a fan of games, and I'm a fan of games like that. So I don't necessarily know if I would be, like, as enthused, though. Like, I was very much like, no, a Destiny Classic won't work. It won't work. And then I watched Madam play the first couple hours of Destiny 1, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm completely and utterly wrong. I think there's a special sauce back here that can be recaptured. I think Astacross's example of classic RuneScape, I think that's exactly right. I think there are people that would dive in. I think they would play all through the content. I think it could have its own, you know, core audience. I can't lick any more dregs, but it's understandable. Bring it on PC for the first time could hit. Yeah, I mean, a classic Destiny on PC as well. I don't know. I think it'd work. Gandalf says, Marathon fans are still here, at least the reasonable ones of us. What I know we are tired of is when folks get so much glee in it not doing well in player population. Like, how is that a good thing for Bungie, Destiny, or Marathon? That's the tiring part. Because the game is good, really good. The audience is just apparently very niche. So it's a tough place for Bungie and Sony. Right, and I've made that point many times, Gandalf. I made that point yesterday. I said, I don't know why people are... excited when games do poorly. Like, people seemingly are gleeful about Saros not selling well, or gleeful about Marathon not doing well. And I said yesterday, I was like, we want Bungie to do well. I think Bungie is a studio with lots of talent. I think Bungie's got a lot of great stuff. Is that nostalgia talking? I don't know if Classic Destiny would be able to capture new users. You could certainly give it a go on PC and see. I don't know, Paris. I was on your side of it. I thought the nostalgia factor would fade very quickly. It would. And who's going to care if you're not a longtime fan? Well, Madam played the opening 2 hours, and I was like, you know what? There's something special back here. There is something special. There is a I don't know. There's a texture to it. There's a substance to it. There's a depth to it that I just think would be done properly. I think it would draw people in. I do. Next few weeks will show signs. They have to talk about post-June, and with a name change for this update, if there's no future mention, it's got to be the end. I've continually said, no, I think that June is the end for Destiny 2. I think they're going to set the game up to coast. I don't think they can justify bandwidth and money in it anymore. I just don't think so. I felt that since I read that tweet about it. It read very strangely. It read as if, yeah, the end is coming. The devil have always been the least of Bungie's problems. It's leadership. It's not in a good place. And hats off to Lono for being able to talk objectively about Bungie. I appreciate that. Destiny 1 definitely has a grittier feel to it for sure, says Broken Earth. You got to give Marathon some flowers. They lasted longer than Highguard and Concord. I don't know if that's... If you're a Marathon fan, I don't think you want those flowers anymore. I think that's a very sobering, that's a very sobering consolation prize to be like, oh yeah, thanks so much. We lasted longer than 2 abysmal failures. I don't know. Fuzzy says maybe if the criticism was rooted in facts, that would be the case. But here we are talking about revenue, a number we both don't know and has nothing to do with Marathon. I'm talking about revenue outside of Marathon. I'm talking about revenue within the realm of a company that just had its valuation lowered by a third. I think they have to have a come to Jesus moment. You can't be purchased by a company, be devalued to that degree, and not have a pretty strong conversation about, okay, what are we going to do? You either have the company dig down on a big project, or you work with what you've got. I can't see Destiny 2 in its current state, or Marathon in its current state. They've been devalued while those games are out and in the wild. Meaning, that is the problem. The revenue generation isn't there. The profit's not there. They're going to have to figure out a way to change that reality. They have to figure out a way to create more revenue, create more profit, or their valuation will just continue to go down. And the more that goes down, the more they're going to have to face downsizing and layoffs. These are undeniable forces of gravity within economics. I don't see how this is absurd to talk about. I think this is reasonable. We would be talking about this if anything else. We've talked about this in the realm of acquisitions with Xbox. We talked about it for months with Xbox. We talked about how you're not going to spend $70 billion on that amount of operational costs and not lay people off and shut studios down. Nobody got upset when we did that. I mean, the Xbox guys didn't like it, but a lot of you were totally fine with that observation. Why? It was sensible. It was logical. It was like, yeah, they're spending $70 billion. Historically speaking, that means you're going to be doing layoffs and downsizing in the aftermath. Historically speaking, when a company gets devalued by a third of its purchase value, it's going to probably lead to some bad things. It's also probably going to lead to some significant decision-making because you have to change the thing that caused the devaluation. That's like saying you have 2 inches of water in your basement and we shouldn't talk about the leak that's happening. That you got to stop the water coming in. I don't know what to say. I'm still very intrigued to see opening week numbers for Season 2. For all the talk about player bases, Season 2 is when the rubber meets the road. Marathon fans will be forced to step up and show their passion. Okay, so I was talking about that in the show open S3 plan. Let's just say hypothetically, Season 2 is a really, really good bounce back moment for the game, and it proves that they have a pretty strong core audience that's willing to come back, okay? I still don't see enough revenue coming from the size they've got. If you look at those early reports, if you look at what Paul Tassi corroborated with like 1.2 million in sales, 70% of the audience is on Steam, let's say it bounces back to a significant degree, right? And you can see clearly there's like a measurable core audience, okay? I still think the dilemma they're facing is they're such a big company, they've been devalued to such a degree. You have to create something that generates the revenue that they were once generating. It's absurd to sit here and act like, well, because we don't know their actual financials, we can't talk about this. We know the heights of that company's earnings and player counts and like momentum. They were going to put a studio in Amsterdam. They were going to expand their own studio space. They were going to get into publishing. That's how profitable and successful Destiny 2 was. They're not there anymore. They were valued at $2.5 billion. They've been reduced by about $1 billion. That's a significant thing to happen. So if the road that led here has to be corrected, now you could correct that in a number of ways. You could dig down deep with Marathon and say, listen, it's lean operationally. If we take it down to this team size, we could start to generate revenue in 6 months. I don't know. You could look at Destiny 2. You could do the same thing. You could say, all right, listen, this is what we do. We strip down the team. We go lean size on Destiny 2, and we do like a Age of Triumph greatest hits thing where like the bandwidth is not that high and the development time's not that high, but maybe we can start to generate some better revenue on Destiny 2. But even those feel like stopgaps, if I'm honest. Those just feel like stopgaps. You need a significant turning point for the company. You do. I don't think they can continue with the status quo. They can't continue doing what they're doing because when your parent company comes out, says to the shareholders, says to the public, we had to take another impairment loss on them. They've basically devalued by 1/3 of what we bought them for. That's going to lead to restructuring. Lin Tao even said last year they were restructuring the company. Looking forward to the coffee arriving. Oh, did you just order some? Somebody congratulated me on the interview. Cool interview yesterday. Thank you, Smooth Jazz. I appreciate that very, very much. If you guys order coffee, somebody did, I don't know who you are, somebody tried to charge back the coffee. You do have shipping information, and we do have confirmed shipping tracking that we can use. So probably not a good idea to do that. That would be considered a form of fraud. And yeah, just probably not a smart play there, boys. We have all that tracked and recorded, and that's not something that these platforms take very lightly. So message in Discord in the live chat channel. All right, hang on, Paris. Paris said, hot take, the substance and texture isn't viable with the size that Bungie is now. Early Halo and D1 were written and built by a handful of visionaries with deep involvement and interest. Bungie staff count intrinsically means that people will be pushing out more quantity over quality. It'll be far wider stroke instead of a finely tuned experience and story. Yeah, but even Destiny 1, if you think about how that came to be, Paris, if you think about how that came to be, they barely got that out the door. They barely got that out the door. Like, I think they could bring the substance, and I think they could bring the quality. I think they could. One of the reasons I think they can is the content's already there, brother. The content's already there. Just retell all those great stories. And if they come out closer together, people aren't going to lose their minds. If I got to wait 6 months for The Taken King instead of an entire year, you know what I mean? Narwaffle with 47 months in a VIP plus. Let me add it to the total. It's been almost 4 years. It has been almost 4 years. Off topic, IO announced that 007 will be 60 on the base PS5. Story? What story? The story's actually quite good if you don't have to wait so long for things to happen. If you go from vanilla Destiny to Dark Below to House of Wolves to Taken King to Rise of Iron, if you can get all of that in a quicker succession, those are great stories. What are you talking about? They just took too long. Dark Below was too meager and people were pretty bummed. But like, these stories, what do you mean? Like, that's literally Taken King is what saved the franchise. If you go from vanilla Destiny, Dark Below, House of Wolves, Taken King, Rise of Iron, all of that condensed down and not having to wait so long for it, and you make it modern feeling as far as like make it look better, graphics, performance, etc. Throw it on PC. Right? Dark Below is the worst. I think you would just tack Dark Below onto the vanilla story at the beginning and then make people wait, like, I don't know, like a couple of months for House of Wolves, make them wait a couple of months for Taken King, right? Like, you should be able to crank these out faster because the content's already made. You would be remaking it. That might take longer, actually. I don't know. Remaking stuff might take quite a while. But they either do that, they either do like Destiny Classic as the road to get to Destiny 3, and you just call the entire franchise Destiny at that point, right? You just call the entire thing Destiny, and then you start with Destiny Classic. You either do that or you don't do any of it, and you just build Destiny 3 for the next 5 years. You just build Destiny 3 for the next 5 years. Pimp Tactical with 49 months and America Plus. Let me add it to the total 102. What's your opinion of Destiny 1 story or a Destiny 1 classic? That's fine. We can all have differing opinions on how good or bad the storytelling was. The storytelling, I think, got better, especially when you don't have to wait as long. If you play through a very vague and strange story, but then you quickly get things like Dark Below, House of Wolves, Taken King, and Rise of Iron, I think people would be more inclined to be like, yo, this story's kind of dope. Also, consider, with a remake, they could go back and add a little bit of panache to it and make it a little bit better, right? But the point is, they either do that or they build Destiny 3, or they just dig in with Marathon. I think the point stands. They can only support one game. I don't think they can support multiple games. Yo, Blind Darkness, I didn't see this. Thank you so much for 12 months of subs over there on Purple. The gatekeeping created a cycle where newer casual players were kicked from raids, lacking specific meta, even though the inclusive pockets and Sherpa communities exist. Listen, a Destiny game's never going to rise and fall by the kindness and the receptibility of your raiding community. The bulk of the player base didn't try to play raids. The bulk of the players played strikes in the public space. I get what you're saying, but that's not really a main issue. That's not a main issue. Like, that's not a barrier for Destiny being successful. It isn't. A barrier for Destiny being successful is not whether or not people can play raids. Like, that's such a small, portion of the community. Jason Schreier on a podcast 18 months ago, he said Destiny 2 was over, it's winding down. That came from Sony. Nothing that has happened since has changed that, in my opinion. Do you guys remember Jason Schreier basically saying that the company was very, very pessimistic about Marathon? Did you guys, during the show open, I threw out a theory, right? Would need to be Destiny 1 without that last update. That last update that made you drop all special ammo and death, and it ruined PvP. I'm not super tuned into what Destiny's PvP was like back then, brother. The Rise of Iron and the Age of Triumph was the golden age of Destiny 1 for most of us. For the PvP boys, sure, they could tweak special ammo and things like that. No hate. I don't give a frick about PvP. That's not even really what would bring. If a Destiny 1 Classic came and was successful and tons of people liked it and played it, it wouldn't be for the PvP. I'm just here to tell you. In any case, I do think the only way you do this is with one game. And let me float a theory by you. I put this in the show open. I think they shoved out Marathon knowing it wasn't ready, knowing it wasn't going to do all that well. But I think Bungie leadership thought, we can ship this out, we can rest on our laurels, we can rely on our name, it'll sell based on that alone, and that'll raise our valuation, and that'll help with the final payout. Do you remember the IGN article that said there was a growing fear at the company that they were going to ship Marathon before the final payout, and then it would be whoever's problem, right? Look, you see what I'm saying? Like, there was a growing fear at the company that was going to happen. This is the same company, by the way, that kept trying to tell leadership that Marathon needed PvE, and the leadership ignored them. I'm telling you, there is something else going on here. I don't think the leadership wanted to ship Marathon because they genuinely believed in it. I think some kind of a weird game is going on, whether it's contractual or like it has to do with that final payout from Sony, but I think Sony's playing the chess game right back by devaluing them before the final payout. I think there's some kind of a weird chess game going on. I think Pete Parsons oversold the company's value. They amortize those payments. The payments are linked to some type of share value or valuation of the company, and PlayStation's playing a chess game of being like, you want to play with us, you want to mess with us, we'll just devalue you so that final payout is significantly lower. I don't think they shipped Marathon with pure intentions. I don't think so. D1 Trials was elite content. PvE bias is blinding. No, it's not. You're just ignorant of the player base numbers and how the game survived back then. It's okay. It's not your fault. That's not publicly available information. But if you want to continue to try to indict my opinion on Destiny over PvE bias, you're not going to get very far. I know more about that game than you do, played it more than you probably did, and covered it for half of a decade. Don't start pulling the PvE bias card in here. It didn't affect my ability to judge Marathon, and it doesn't affect my ability to judge the history of Destiny. The PvP boys have always thought too highly of that game's PvP. If there's a bias, it's the folks that think like PvP carried the game. It was always the weakest portion of the game, significantly weaker portion of the game. I've looked at the numbers, I've studied the player base, I've watched the patterns within that community. There's no PvE bias here. There's half a decade of analysis, which you don't have. You start pulling that out, dude, I'm going to absolutely check you on it. I'm so sick of hearing that from people. Like, my PvE bias didn't prevent me from hitting every bullseye every step of the way on Marathon. I called it. I said all the things that were going to happen every step of the dadgum way. You're also forgetting that I've covered PvP games extensively and have shoutcasted them professionally. Like, there's not a universe where I can't do analysis of Destiny because I don't like PvP. It's just not that thought, the good loot, PvP, carried Destiny, smallest number of players always kept the game alive. Bungie is trying to play a shell game to show value, and Sony just flipped all the shells instead of picking one. Congrats on the interview with the chat with Raul. Thank you, Keeg. I appreciate that. I never watched Midnight Mass and just started it. Yo, it's good, Ginger. Marathon took the worst features from Destiny seasons and are hoping fetch quests and CGI vendors talking can be enough content for folks to spend 200 to 300 hours a season. I won't say PvP carried Destiny 1, just as the last update ruined PvP. Well, and that's why I said, I was like, I'm not going to commentate on that because I wasn't playing back then, but I also said, and I think this is a fair assessment, I don't think a Destiny 1 Classic rises and falls on the ammo economy of PvP because I don't think that would be the main draw of a Destiny Classic. Destiny Classic's draw is not going to be PvP. That's not PvE bias. That's basic assessment of what people are going to look for in a game from 12 years ago. They're not going to be like, well, let's go play the PvP. The numbers in PvP in a Destiny 1 Classic wouldn't be anywhere near the numbers of people running strikes and raids and the content. There's absolutely no way. Thank you, Dark Taco. I appreciate that. Such a good interview. It was a really fun time. He even thanked me at the end. He was thankful that we talked about the game and not all the other things that he typically gets asked about. And I was like, I didn't prepare questions. I was totally not sure it was even going to happen, so I just kind of went with it, and it ended up being great. So, yeah, I was really appreciative of him being willing to do that. I prefer Destiny 1 PvP over Destiny 2. I just think, given their ability to iterate and add and update, I don't think Destiny 1 PvP would be the draw. I just don't think that it would. I think it would burn out very quickly because people would be like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Now, I mean, maybe I'm going to argue with myself here, because if they shipped it on PC and it felt really, really good, and it had, like, I don't know, if it felt really good and, like, they really pulled a lot of audience members on PC, maybe it could have some life over there. I just don't know. Historically speaking, the PvP, I just don't think would be the reason that a Destiny 1 Classic would be a hit. I could be wrong if it got, like, a big pull on PC. I just don't know. That's just not my area of expertise back then. And when you look at the player base numbers, it sort of supports my theory that the main draw would be the PvE. Dr. Pimp with 39 months and Member Plus. You sounded kind of angry back there. I love it. Glad to be here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. There we go. 104 on the member count. Rahul is a more typical British guy than Bife ever was. I don't really know anything about that. No hate to him. He's just more posh. Yeah, I don't know why you're comparing the two. Who gives a frick about that? That's a weird thing to do. Facts, nostalgia can only entertain you for so long. Work and lurk in a work call. All right, Ginger. I'd replay all of D1 if they put it on PC. Destiny Classic PvP would go so hard. Here's my concern, Taco. Okay. They've just never been good at the balance. They've just never, ever been good at the balance. They're not even good at the balance now, as evidenced with Marathon's troubles, right? Even the people that are playing it are consistently, every week I'm seeing complaints about nerfs and buffs to things that they don't think should have been nerfed or buffed. It's just a perpetual problem that they feel like they've always had. I feel like they come up with... They're really good at creating cool stuff, and cool stuff's bad for balance. That's just the facts. That's been a continued struggle for a very long time with them. They make cool stuff. They make cool weapons and cool abilities, and then PvP's like, yeah, it'd be a shame if we were a thorn in the side of all this cool stuff for years. Does anybody remember, Trials when the Thorn came out? So I think that would be the main thing that would happen. Destiny 1 Classic comes, everybody's, the PvP's great. Yeah, and then 3 weeks later, everybody's metagaming and complaining. That would be the issue and do you think they're going to want to be continually babysitting that balancing act again? I just don't think so. I think it would become absolute freaking chaos. It would just be an imbalanced mess because I just don't think they would want to babysit it and mess with it. Which maybe that could be fun. Maybe it would just be pure and utter chaos and they would just kind of just get to be like that. ADJC with a $5 super chat says, I'm still playing D1's PvP. It's still pretty active. It's significantly more balanced on D1 than D2, using abilities and gunplay evenly. I mean, I still think you're going to face the problem of metagaming. It always happens. And secondly, people are going to get bored then. I just think that this is something I always felt about Destiny's PvP. People didn't want balance. They didn't. They wanted imbalance in their favor. They liked when it was imbalanced and it was the stuff that they liked to use or the stuff that they were good with. Nobody really wanted balance because how many times have we said balance is boring? It's boring. If it's really balanced and really tuned, you'll have fun for a while and then you'll get bored because it just becomes very rote and rehearsed and very predictable. I don't think the PvP community ever wanted balance. They just wanted it to be tuned to their liking. If they had their build, their gun, their thing, their way of playing, that meta to them was best meta. And the minute you fiddled with that, they'd get upset. Nobody actually wanted balance. Jeremiah with $20 says, we don't need a D1 Classic. We need them to take advantage of all of the cool lore. Imagine a game before there was Guardians, like when they controlled strongholds and fought for humanity's liberation from the bad Guardians. I mean, you could certainly go all the way back and do a prequel. People wanted a quality that favored them. All right, Zubair. Hey, Forge. Your class act with Rahul Kohli yesterday, nerds nerding out. I appreciate that. We had a fun time, dude. It literally didn't even feel like an interview. And people were like, somebody left a comment and they're like, you guys should just do this on a regular basis. You should just have him on to talk games. And I'm like, listen, I'm not going to say no to the eye candy upgrade that man brings to the stream, okay? I mean, I'll take it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? We'll just continue to bring that salt and pepper vibe. I mean, he's got way more than me. But it didn't feel like an interview. It didn't. It just felt like two dudes talking about games. Like a game that we love that he happens to be the lead actor in. But then also we just started talking about, Returnal, and we started talking about our favorite games and generations. Like, yeah, I was like, he's probably too busy. I don't know if he'd even be interested in that. That would be fun, though. Just, every month or so, be like, hey, man, let's talk. Like, what are you playing? Destiny Iron Lords would go hard. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It still would have been cool to have the Iron Lords involved in the raid in Rise of Iron. I still thought that was weird. What's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. You guys seemed like friends for a long time. I think it helps when you're similar age. I'm only like 4 years older than him. And when you come from that generation of gaming, I just think there's a lot of common ground, This really hurts. I'm not enough salt and pepper brown man for you. His salt and pepper is far superior. Oh, it is. I can't compete with that. I can't compete with it. I'm not even going to try. Pragmata hacks and blasts its way to victory to become April's player choice winner. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Excellent game. Pragmata is going to win, I think, a good number of awards this year. He's most definitely welcome back anytime he wants to, I'm sure. I'll circle back. I mean, I can DM him and be like, hey, we got a lot of great feedback on the show, and some folks even suggested, like, hey, have him on a regular basis just to talk games. I'll float it past him. Sometimes people just want to do that. They just like to talk games. I mean, he said he could give me about an hour, and I'm the one that had to end it. I think he could have kept going. I think he was having a good time, and I that's what I like to do. I like to have folks on and just have a good time. Let's just talk games. We're trying to bring that vibe of just like have folks on the show, and let's just talk. Instead of getting into all the weird subtweet spats and side swipes that I got into back then. Just hire Astrocross as Destiny 1 game director, and he will write the Destiny ship. Fast Flex with 51 months in the VIP, another month. So much great content. Thank you so much. We're exactly 20 away from 125. We'll see if anybody wants to drop the big. It might be the first. I think it'll be the first 20 bomb of the week. We are way behind pace. See if we cannot get it back. Xbox is so back. Influences declare after Sharma tweets Xbox 360. What? Oh, satire. Oh. I was like, what is going on? Would you have Alana Pierce on? Having had Rahul would probably facilitate the connection. Yeah, I think she's great. I've taken up for her a number of times. I like her content. I think she's really funny. Her videos annoy me because she's very quick-witted. Her editing and humor are great. I was like, I wish I could make videos like that. Like, I watch her videos and I'm always, as a YouTuber, I'm playing two videos. I'm playing the video as like I wonder what Alana thinks about this. And then I'm also thinking, like, as a YouTuber, I'm like, oh, that was a good edit. That was good comedic timing. That was a good cold open. Like, I'm thinking about all the things that she's doing, like, as a writer and a YouTuber. Yeah, I'd love to have her on the show. It'd be fun to talk about the game that she's a part of, because I was promoting that too and telling people to wish list it a while back. What's your favorite game series that you know is objectively bad but you still enjoy it? For me, it's Earth Defense Force. I got that from my son last night. I had never played an Earth Defense Force. It was Earth Defense Force like Brothers 2 or whatever. It has an amazing score on PlayStation, and he was looking for something new to play, and I was like, this actually looks pretty good. I can't really think of a franchise that I really enjoy that I know is objectively bad. Usually if something is bad, like objectively bad, like if the game is just not good, I'm not going to be able to hang with it for very long. Like, I can't think of a game that I'm like, dude, I absolutely love this game, and I know that it's bad. Like, that's, historically speaking, just not been where I land for the most part. I knew it was great yesterday when you were saying you had to wait to see. Didn't even cross my mind as a possibility. Yeah, I kept it fully under my hat. People kept coming back and asking if it would happen. He's super busy. He was promoting the game, so I DM'd him and then had to wait like about 2 weeks to get a response because he's just really busy. So, you know, I just kept it under my hat. 2K. Gaming News Weekly with him on Fridays. going over the week's news. I don't know if he'd want to do something weekly. That'd be ridiculous. You could ask Jaffe. Oh, I could ask Jaffe. Jaffe's willing to come on the show. We were going to do a PlayStation show a while ago, and it just never happened. I'll get back to him. It's just a time zone problem. He can't come on until later in the day. So, who would you have on the show? I would have pretty much anybody on the show. Stream muted on Twitch? I don't think so. There's 90 folks watching over there. There's no way. I would pretty much have anybody on the show as long as they haven't been nasty and like attacked me and made nasty content about me. I wouldn't have any of those people on. Like Gaming Monthly, going over the month's news. Yeah, I love Forspoken. I wouldn't call it bad. It had plenty of good qualities, but the voice acting and dialogue were rough. I mean, we were just debating Destiny 1. Like, I think there are people that think, like, vanilla Destiny 1 was, like, objectively bad. And, like, I kind of liked it back then. I hated how there wasn't much to do, but I also liked the game. It was fun. Do you think Housemarque's on the chopping block due to poor sales of Sorrows? That's a complete false narrative. It's a total false narrative. They bought Housemarque after 2 months of sales. Returnal, 2 months in, sold like 550,000 or something. This game sold more than half that in 2 weeks. I think people are running with an immediate false narrative presumption that like, oh, the sales are poor. How can the sales be poor if after 2 weeks it's halfway to what Returnal was after 2 months? You know what I mean? I think people are jumping to conclusions. I don't think they expected that game to blast out like a cannon. I think it could have sold a little bit better if it wasn't for the price. But I don't think I was ever expecting that game to kill it. Yesterday I said if it underperforms to the degree that they're not even making back their money, yeah, that would be really concerning. I don't see that happening. Like, Returnal was like 1 million sales after a year. I don't see Housemarque struggling to hit that number. I don't. I think people are jumping to conclusions because they don't like PlayStation. They want to have a narrative against exclusivity, and they're going to try to use this game as an example of that. And it's like a really hard Rogue that's the sequel to a Rogue that lots of people don't like Rogues. You know, after Returnal, there was going to be plenty of people that were like, yeah, no, miss me with that. I don't want to play another game like that. I do think it could have sold better with a lower price, but people are like, oh, PC release would have made for better sales. No, Returnal didn't sell well on the PC, and it would have made development take longer, which would inevitably have made the budget bigger. The idea, listen, these armchair businessmen who think they understand the world of gaming, and they're like, oh, I know the solution for rising production costs. Oh, yeah, what's that? Well, they should put the game on PC. Oh, so they should hire more staff, take longer to develop the game, do parallel development. They can't code to the metal of the PlayStation, ergo making production costs higher in the hopes that the game sells enough on PC to justify that increase in the budget after Returnal didn't sell all that well on PC. Wow, it's amazing that you're typing on tweets and YouTube chats and not running a business, $1 million business with such amazing analysis. Like, there is not a universe where the solution for production costs being too high is make the game for PC too. That we've literally heard from developers about how that makes it more expensive and more difficult to develop. The guy from Deep Rock Galactic Survivor literally talked about this. Everybody's solution is not a solution. You're like, the best way to put out a fire is to pour gas on it. That's how dumb that sounds. I'm sorry, it's dumb. To be like, yeah, the solution for production costs getting higher and studios struggling to make money is increase production cost and studio size, ergo increasing your risk and potentially shrinking your margins. Wow, it's amazing you're not all like, $1 million business owners with these amazing strategies. Dynamite J with 22 months and a member plus. Thank you so much. If it would make money and advance their business, why isn't Sony doing it? To win internet points? Yeah, the whole thing is ridiculous. It's just presumed narratives. It doesn't matter what Alinea Analytics would have put out. If they would have put out 500,000 sales and it's trending higher than Returnal, you want to know what they would do? They would run the attach rate argument. That's what they would do. If it was selling undeniably better than Returnal, as Yote did, what do? Well, they doubt it. They're skeptics. They claim it's not real. They claim it's not true. Or they run the attach rate argument. Every single time a PlayStation game has sold incredibly well, they all retreat to that idiotic Alamo of attach rate, which is one of the dumbest arguments you could possibly make. You basically argue that every single third-party, multi-plat game is an absolute abysmal failure and flop. That's how stupid the argument is. And then when something like Sorrows comes out, and I don't think anybody expected it to be outselling Capcom mainline games or topping charts, and it's like, oh yeah, it's at 300,000 sales after 2 weeks. More than half of what Returnal did in 2 months. And when Returnal did that in 2 months, PlayStation bought them. So PlayStation's expectations are probably not aligned with angry Twitter idiots. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, there's just no merits to any of this. They would say it's so popular you're missing out on sales on PC. Yeah, something like that. The arguments are tiring because they don't come from good faith. They're bad faith arguments. They're bad faith. And regardless of how well the game sold, people were going to run with the narrative every single time. When Returnal came out, though, it was 2 years old and being sold at 60. I don't think folks have an appetite for that. We can do what ifs all you want. PlayStation clearly does not see day and date on PC as a good idea. And I actually think that many people ignore the fact that these companies would have to completely restructure their size, completely restructure their bandwidth allocation, and then they can't code to the metal. It takes longer to build. It's more expensive to build. And then you're like, well, then we're going to cross our fingers and hope that this game sells well enough on this other platform to justify what we just did. It's stupid. Like, it's a stupid suggestion. It hasn't stopped being a stupid suggestion this entire generation. To continue to suggest that the most profitable generation PlayStation's ever had, as well as watching Nintendo top the sales charts with their games, to continue to run with this just idiocy about like, oh, games should not be exclusive. They should be everywhere. They're not going to make enough money. It's a dumb argument. And the fact that you have to run to every single time like, oh, a game didn't absolutely destroy the sales charts, therefore my argument is valid. No, the argument's never been valid. It hasn't been valid this entire generation. If it was valid, why is everybody slobbering over the suggestion that Xbox might go back to exclusives? If exclusives are archaic and stupid and a loss of money, why? Why mere mention of exclusivity has everybody run back to that? Like, oh yeah, we should definitely go back to exclusives. It's like, I thought they were archaic and lost money. 300,000 sales with 98 million consoles is just bad. That's your opinion, and your opinion doesn't matter. It doesn't. Whose opinion matters is PlayStation's. If PlayStation's expecting that game to land around 1 million sales after a year, your opinion is irrelevant. That was like people who said Astro Bot didn't sell enough, and PlayStation has done nothing but celebrate Astro Bot. And there were tons of people who said the literal exact same thing that you just did. Attach rate argument is stupid. It's never not been stupid. It is. I don't have any respect for it. It's made in bad faith. You know it's a bad argument, and you make it because you want to upset people or get internet points on Twitter. It's a stupid argument. It's rooted in complete and utter ignorance. It's never been made from logical analysis of budgets or profit or revenue or the business aspirations of these platforms. It's made by idiotic console warriors who don't understand this industry. That's where it comes from. It just comes from people who armchair business analysis. And it's like, if attach rate was a major problem and a major concern for these companies, it would be constantly talked about in the shareholder meetings and the stock meetings and the earnings calls. And it never comes up. And the reason it never comes up is because it's something that's been completely fabricated by console warriors. It's not a thing that these companies worry about. They're not like, now, we know your budget was only $60 million, but you launched late in the life of PlayStation, so we expect you to outsell Spider-Man 2. That's the logic. Seriously. That's the logic. You launched later in the gen than Spider-Man 2, so you better outsell it. Spider-Man 2 sold to a smaller amount of consoles, so, I mean, there's 90-something million consoles in circulation. Hopefully you can outpace one of the most popular superheroes in the history of the world, as well as, you know, a Marvel title, as Marvel's on a rise at that point in time. It was kind of on a rise, maybe not anymore, but that's the argument. Well, there's more consoles in circulation now, so hopefully you can sell better than Spider-Man 2 did. That'd be idiotic. There's not a C-suite, there's not an executive, there's not a manager, there's not a shareholder anywhere that would argue that. Why? Because they're not idiots. They understand how this works. Here's your operational cost, here's your projected sales, here's your margin. Hey, that was great. Good job, guys. Thanks so much. You added to the portfolio. Good work. And I'll tell you what'll happen. There'll be an earnings call. They'll speak to, you know, the game did fine, did well, hit expectations, and then grifters will say, well, we don't believe them. They're doing damage control. Because, yes, high-ranking Japanese executives give a single ounce of a frick about what morons are saying on Twitter. Like, the argument is so pointless. It's pointless. Let's say the game did not hit expectations. Let's say that it did. Let's say it underperformed. Let's say Soros underperformed. They're going to assess reasons as to why. Maybe it was the price point. I personally think it should have been about a $50 to $60 game. PlayStation's got a bit of an ego about this. They like their first-party games priced at $70. I don't think it should have been. I don't know how much of a difference that would have made, though. Great interview yesterday. Thank you, Snake Eyes, for 17 months. Let me add to the total. But let's just say it underperformed. The people celebrating that, they're not gamers. They're LARPing as gamers. They're total fakes and frauds. They're concerned over the industry. They're hand-wringing over pro-consumer this or pro-consumer that. It's just a bunch of performative BS. They don't care about the industry. If you're going to celebrate a game doing poorly, you don't care about gaming. I've not once argued or celebrated that Marathon's not doing well. Not once. You're arguing in bad faith. No one's saying Sorrow should sell more than Spider-Man 2. You completely misunderstood the point. Congratulations. I was demonstrating that would be bad faith. Thanks for catching all the way up and confirming that it's bad faith to argue attach rate on Soros. Well, 90-something million, that's bad. Again, you're arguing that games that launch late in the cycle of the generation should do better. They should perform better. What you're doing is, and thank you for admitting your argument's bad faith. So now you both did argument of attach rate, and you just conceded it's a bad faith argument by admitting that my comparison to Spider-Man's bad faith. You walked right into the trap card of demonstrating that your argument's bad faith. You just admitted your argument's bad faith, and you don't even see it because you're not even on the landscape of the discussion. You're not. You're parroting something that you've heard somebody else say. You just admitted that your own argument's bad faith. That was an own goal. Yeah, you just kicked the ball in your own net, brother. I was demonstrating that it would be bad faith to say that. Why? Because that's the crux of your argument. You're essentially saying the expectations of a studio late in the life of the gen are higher purely because there's more consoles in circulation. Oh yeah, you better sell more. Why? Well, it's late in the gen. There's more consoles in circulation. Your budget doesn't matter. Your market reach doesn't matter. Your history as a studio doesn't matter. The IP's top of mind awareness within the market, that doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that we've sold more consoles. 300,000 sales for an exclusive is pathetic. Opinion, subjective and not factual. So who cares what you think? You're not the barometer. You're not the arbiter of success. You're not. People made the same argument about Astrobot, and they were incorrect. The expectations were not that it was going to be some chart-topping game. That wasn't the expectation. They didn't expect Astrobot to sell like Spider-Man 2. They do not expect a game like Soros to sell to the degree of like a Capcom game like Pragmata or Death Stranding 2 or Yote. They don't expect it. So you're like, oh, that's pathetic. Well, okay, who cares? You could say that about anything, by the way. You could say that about anything. You could say that about literally any PlayStation game that launches. You could say, oh man, Yote only sold 5 million copies out of 90 million. That's pathetic. You're not saying anything. You're not. You could say that about every single game they launch. You aren't actually saying anything of substance. You're just saying, I don't understand how this business works, but I've got an opinion about it. The expectation isn't to make profit. It might not break even. Nobody knows that. That's absolute total speculation. No one has said it might not break even. Housemarque was purchased after 2 months of Returnal sales. Returnal sold like 550,000 copies at that point in time. That was 2 months. Saros is past the halfway point to that number after 2 weeks. So again, you don't know what you're talking about. You're presuming that it's pathetic. You're presuming that it's bad. We don't know if it's bad. We don't. The only way you know if it's bad or not is if PlayStation comes out and says it underperformed. It didn't hit our expectations. That's the only way that you know. If they come out and say it landed right where we hoped it would land, it hit expectations, we were very pleased with Housemarque adding to the portfolio, that means your opinion at that point is completely pointless because their goals with games are not the same as Twitter warriors. GameSpot and Linear are saying it might not break even. They have zero clue what the budget of the game is. They have zero clue what the market expectations were from PlayStation. They are speculating. They're speculating. Didn't it leak that Housemarque viewed success as being a top 5 NPD sales for Saros? Oh wait, that was Bungie and Marathon. Yeah, that wasn't a Saros thing. It's speculation. We have no idea what the expectations and the budget is for Housemarque and for Saros. We don't know. We don't. People are anxious to run with a number purely because they don't like PlayStation and they don't like exclusives. It's not rooted in good faith. It isn't. When Alenia Analytics dropped the Marathon numbers, I thought, that doesn't look very good, and I literally said the day they hit, I said it in the Discord, I said it in my stream, they've been wrong before, I don't typically like to run their numbers. And then Paul Tassi walked out and said, I've spoken to my contacts at Bungie, those numbers are very close to accurate. And I said, well, we're going to run it now. We're going to run the story. He just corroborated the numbers. If he can corroborate the numbers with Bungie, I'm running the story. I've said multiple times, the only reason I ran those numbers, Alenia Analytics numbers, with Marathon was because Tassi corroborated the numbers with Bungie. They have been incorrect before. It's not a hard science. It's speculative. It's a prediction based off of like trophies, reviews, patterns within the market. If they're accurate, that's fine. I don't have a great concern. I said yesterday, if they can get above 1 million sales after a year, which is roughly what Returnal got, I think they'll count that as a success. I don't think they expected Saros to be moving 3 to 5 million copies in its launch year. I don't think that they expected that. Donald Pryor with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much. I agree with Lono. The narrative that exclusive sells consoles is wrong. We all know exclusivity doesn't increase console sales. Look at the numbers. People love PlayStation in general, not for those games. That's completely and utterly false. And a report that just came out said exclusives factor in a huge way when people buy consoles based on a survey that was done. That is not true. It isn't true that exclusives don't drive console sales. That's never been true. People do what's called correlative conclusions, which is they take correlative data points and they think they can come to a conclusion. My nephew bought a PlayStation 5 for Spider-Man 2. He wanted to play it. He knew it was the only way he could play it. So he bought the PlayStation 5 for an exclusive. If you looked at his hours of playtime, you would say, yeah, he clearly didn't buy the PlayStation for exclusives because he plays Call of Duty more than anything. You would come to a false conclusion. That's correlative data points. It's like, well, he plays more Call of Duty than Spider-Man, and that correlation of data is going to make me conclude that he didn't buy it for the exclusive. Because you, I guess, expect him to play Spider-Man 2 for 300 hours, as Call of Duties, and games like it are meant to be played for months and months and months and weeks and weeks and weeks. Like, you're never going to compete with those play hours. A $5 super chat from Forget Me Not. The only single-player game that Sony said remotely underperformed was Horizon Forbidden West, and that was because they put it on PS2 early. I didn't think they said it underperformed. I think they said when they did that, they saw a sharp decline in sales. I didn't think they actually used the words it underperformed. Horizon as a franchise has been ridiculously successful for them. I think they tout that as one of their best. I don't think they ever said, yeah, Horizon Forbidden West underperformed, didn't sell well enough. I don't think they said that. Exclusives almost got me to buy a PS6. I think you meant to say PS5. And I've been a PC guy since I was in middle school. Exclusives absolutely matter. To act like exclusives don't move consoles when it's literally the reason that people buy Nintendo. Like, it's to ignore the literal market leader. I don't know why people continue to make absolutely absurd arguments. They're not even arguments. They're not. They're ideological beliefs. They're not facts-based arguments. They're ideological beliefs. You believe that exclusives don't matter. You believe. You can't prove they don't matter because the proof is they do. You literally see people buy the Nintendo Switch 2 just to play Pokemon or just to play Zelda. But people don't buy a console for exclusives? You will literally have people say out loud, yeah, I bought the PlayStation so I could play God of War. I bought the PlayStation so that I could play Spider-Man. But exclusives don't matter. And then a survey just came out arguing that, like, yeah, they did a survey and exclusives are a huge factor in people buying a console. You think it's a coincidence that the more they devalued exclusives over on the Xbox platform, the more the demand for their hardware went down simultaneously? They literally chopped their own legs off and wondered why they couldn't run fast. It's like, well, yeah, you literally took the thing off the table that motivated people to buy your box. Like, the argument's silly. It's like when people compare Sony's first party to GTA. Wolverine will be a console seller. We know for a fact right now people are going to buy a console because of GTA 6, and that is exclusively on console. Just that level of exclusivity is enough to get people to buy a piece of machinery. I could see Sony putting Saros on PC sooner than usual. No, I want Saros to come to PC, but after the performance of Returnal, I just don't see it. I don't see that being their motivation. If you go back and listen to Herman Holst, he never once said that we put games on PC if they don't sell well. He said, we take our tent pole titles. We take our tent pole titles to PC in the hopes that those people might want to play a sequel and buy a PlayStation. The goal was never to go over there and be like, yeah, we need to make more money. Look at the lifetime sales of PlayStation games on PC. It amounted as single percentage points on their annual revenue. And you think they're going to take Saros to PC? I don't think it would generate the money that you think that it would. They were taking some of their biggest pieces of property to PC, and it was 2.5 percentage points on their annual revenue. It was nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's nothing. It's like they wouldn't be like, oh, yeah, well, we barely generate money over there. Let's take one of our smallest titles over there. It'll really fix it. No, I never heard anybody say, I got a PS5 to play the Returnal sequel day one. Yeah, Returnal just didn't move numbers on PC. I think there were two things working against Saros. If Saros fails to surpass Returnal, two things are working against it. Number one, people's memory of Returnal. People had a hard time with it and didn't want to buy another game like that. A lot of people didn't even know that Returnal was a rogue. The other thing working against Saros, the price point. I to this day was shocked that they charged the full price for it. It's like, that should have been $50, man. It's a highly produced, highly polished AAA game. I get it. Even if it was just 60, they probably would have won some more folks to be like, oh, it's not 70. Yeah, 60. Let me try that out. But I think, how many endings does it have? 2. I think people were like, $70 for another game where I die and start all the way over? Yeah, I'm good. Miss me with that. No, thank you. I think it's a tough sell to people because they had a rough go with Returnal. I do. I tell you what I saw more of with Saros than I did with Returnal, though. I think I saw way more people talking about it. More people in our community played it than played Returnal. I've got people that now want to go back to Returnal. And I saw more videos about it. Now, that could be an algorithmic bias. I could just be looking up stuff and talking about it, and therefore I'm getting fed more videos. It could be a total algorithmic bias. But, like, I do think that game had a stronger presence and awareness and footing than Returnal did. Now, Returnal could have had an advantage. Returnal launched at a time when there was a shortage of new games coming out, and it was a pandemic. So people might have just bought it by default and were like, well, I mean, it's something to play. It might have had an advantage. Saros launched in probably one of the craziest gaming years I've ever witnessed in all my years of gaming. I feel like every other week something's coming out. It was like Resident Evil 9, then Pragmata, Mouse PI, then there was a Monster Hunter game, and now this game. It's like, this is an insane year. Returnal got the launch in a bit of a gaming drought, and that might have helped it. I don't know. I don't think Housemarque and PlayStation were thinking that Saros is going to be 3 to 5 million in its launch year. I don't think they were anticipating that. That's why saying, oh, the attach rate's bad or the sales are pathetic, if they were not expecting it to be higher than it is, then that judgment means nothing. If I go into a neighborhood and I expect to put up 2 fences, and there's 100 neighbors, there's 100 houses, and I'm like, if I can put up 2 fences in this neighborhood, I'm gonna make some good money. It's a rich neighborhood, they got a lot of money, I got the product and the production real low, real lean, my margins are great. You'd be like, that homie got told no 98 times, what a frickin' loser. Or let's say I put up 3 fences, like that guy got told 97 times, he frickin' sucks. And I'd be back home being like, making that money. Like, you wouldn't know from looking from the outside. You'd be like, oh my gosh, that guy's attach rate in that neighborhood was frickin' terrible. 3 houses out of 100? He must be terrible. He must suck. His fences must be too expensive, whatever. But I'm sitting at home counting my dollars because I'm like, hey man, that was a good day. That was a good haul. So looking from the outside in, you don't know what the expectation is. Out of 90-something million consoles, if they're like, yeah, if we can close out the fiscal year and Housemarque sold roughly 1 million units, we'll be very pleased with that. If that's their expectation and they're on pace for that, then all this bluster and all this hand-wringing is for nothing. It's all for nothing. It's just a way to rile up console fighting again and to restoke the tired fires of like, yeah, the exclusives are bad. It's like, okay. Every product is a failure because there's 7 billion people in the world. Right. Do we have actual sales? No. We have an analytics company that has been correct. They have also been incorrect in the past. They don't have a perfect record. And when they dropped the marathon stuff, we were in the Discord, and I said, I'm not going to run those numbers. Those guys have been wrong before. I think I had people come to my stream and tell me, Lono, Alinea Analytics is saying that Marathon only sold like 1.2 million copies. And I said, listen, I don't run with those guys' numbers because they've been wrong in the past. And then, I think it was like that afternoon or evening, Paul Tassi came out and was like, no, these numbers are accurate. And I was like, because he spoke to somebody at Bungie. Then I ran the numbers. He's like, number one, the sales numbers of a live service game are far more important than the sales numbers of Saros, let's be clear, because a player funnel for a live service game will literally determine whether or not the game survives. Saros doesn't need that. It's not a multiplayer game. It's not a live service game. So I don't think the sales and the player numbers of Saros are nearly as pertinent, because especially given the budget is a fraction of what it costs to make Marathon. Cake Man says, the attach rate argument is the only pushback to the talking point that exclusives move hardware. Most of them absolutely do not. Nintendo is an outlier. I think you're incorrect, and I think the data proves you're incorrect. You can have the opinion that you don't think exclusives move hardware. I think there's way too many data points that falsify your claim, so I'm not really interested in debating it further. You can believe what you believe. I believe the facts. You believe in what is commonly a diatribe of people who don't like exclusives, which means the argument is incredibly suspect. It has a selfish bias baked within it to argue against exclusivity. It's not one that looks at the facts and comes to a conclusion. It isn't. It's not empirically based. It's opinion based, which means I'm not compelled by it. Expecting a rogue shooter to be in the same category as a Sony story-driven action-adventure long-standing franchises is lunacy. The opposite is true. Sales numbers for single-player games are far more important because it's the only way to make money. Live service games can survive from a few whales alone. That's not true either, because usually when a live service game survives off of whales, they have an initial launch of success and momentum, and then they settle into a floor where the whales can carry the game. Your initial sales of a live service game matter far more. They matter far more because that's your player funnel. You literally cannot have the game working if people aren't playing. If your matchmaking breaks down, there are no whales. No one's spending large amounts of money in a game where they can barely play or the off-peak hours aren't there. Like, there's just no way. You need tons of people. You need tons of people buying your live service game. If it's matchmaking based especially. Like, it'd be one thing if you have like a co-op game, kind of like that Far Far West cowboy game. That's like a co-op live service game, right? When your game is matchmaking based, homie, you need people playing, because if not, folks are just sitting there waiting to play, which means there's a high likelihood they'll play less, and then it compounds from there. Like, you absolutely need high sales of a live service game if you're going to sell it for a price point. You won't have whales if people are like, I can't play the game. The matchmaking's taking too long. If that was the case, Highguard would not have failed. Yeah, Highguard's a good example. You're not going to have whales in a game like Highguard because Highguard never got off the ground. You typically have whales in a game that gets off the ground and has a sense of momentum and has a sense of like an audience. And the struggle with games like Highguard, Concord, and I think the games, the struggle that is now facing Marathon is the fact that you just don't have lots of people playing. That's a significant challenge because it's like, well, if you're not a lot of people playing, then there's a percentage of whales. Think about it from this perspective. There's a percentage of whales in relation to your peak. So if you have very, very low peaks and very little initial interest, then the number of whales is going to be in relation to that. Subair says, I think there are two kinds of exclusives. Strategic exclusives like Horizon and God of War, and tactical exclusives like Saros and Astrobot. I may workshop those names. I think there are exclusives that they want to see designed to top the charts, right? They want to see them top those charts. Then there are exclusives that they want to see cement the brand's identity. Now, the ones that the ones that top the charts, they certainly cement the identity. But like Astrobot, Returnal, Saros, even the Lego Horizon game, like the smaller exclusives are designed to cement the identity. Hey, that company's got a portfolio of first-party games that are dope. They don't expect Astrobot and Lego Horizon and Saros to be just topping the charts. That's not the expectation. It serves a different purpose. And I think that's where all this discussion just gets lost, because you have zero idea what the purpose, like what's PlayStation view, what's their view of a game like Saros. Well, you'd have to go back to Returnal and say, well, Returnal had only sold about 500,000 copies in 2 months, and they bought them. Saros has sold 1/3 300,000, so 1/3 in just 2 weeks. I don't think they're like, oh my gosh, this is a disaster. They're probably like, yeah, that's pretty much on pace to where we anticipated them landing. It's similar to what we saw with Returnal. If you're at 300,000 after 2 weeks, after 2 months, you're probably going to be in the same ballpark as Returnal. That's why I don't know why these guys are saying it's selling slower than Returnal. We don't have 2 week sales data for Returnal. So at some level, there's dishonesty. It's almost like, are people lying right now? Because we don't have 2 week sales data for Returnal. We don't. So when people are saying that it's selling slower than Returnal, I don't know where they're coming. I don't know where they're getting that data point. We don't have a 2-week sales data point for Returnal. We have a 2-month sales data point for Returnal. Soros is a bullet hell rogue. It could never be mainstream. It'll never be a mainstream whim, even if it's a perfect bullet hell rogue. Yeah, it was never going to be mainstream. I think that's the other thing that we have to remember. It was not going to be at the top of those charts like that. It wasn't designed to be that. It wasn't. It wasn't designed to be that. If it was designed to be that, I think they would have marketed it very, very differently. I think it would have been marketed in a way where they were they would have been throwing celebrity endorsements at it. I mean, it was marketed pretty heavily. I mean, I will say that. I don't think PlayStation wanted it to like take a dadgum bath, but you know, I don't want to talk business strat because I'm an engineer, but something is being done right because PS5 is doing really well. And the competing console isn't competing at a small fraction. Right. And I think that's the thing that I always kind of come back to, AOZ. It's like, I constantly feel like we're dealing with folks who are experts in painting mirages. It's like they create this mirage that PlayStation's doing really poorly. And I'm like, I look at the numbers, I look at the sales, I look at their financials, and they're crushing it. Even with taking an impairment loss on Bungie, they still made profit. Like they took an $800 million impairment loss on an asset, and they still look good. That's the thing. Is like you guys are all experts in creating these mirages. It's the little brother syndrome. It's like you're constantly trying to act like a blog post from Asha Sharma matters more than an earnings report that's showing PlayStation crushing it and having a continued amount of dominance within the space. But then we're like, well, yeah, but they're just doing so poorly. And then you get a sales prediction on Soros, and you're just quick to be like, yep, selling slower than Returnal, going to flop. They're probably going to close Housemarque. And it's like, okay. I've never wanted to time travel more than I have in the last year of internet gaming coverage. Yote's a flop. Fast forward to the earnings call. Yeah, it outperformed Tsushima. We're very pleased. Yeah, they're just saying that. Okay, sure. The data almost every time. The reason I'm always skeptical too is like the data almost always comes out and falsifies the claims. It's almost universal at this point. It's almost universal at this point. It's like, yeah, guys, I don't think Marathon's going to do well. I don't think Marathon's going to sell well. I don't think it's got far market reach. You don't know what you're talking about. You have a PvP bias. Blah, 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 blah. And then the data comes out, and then they take an impairment loss on Bungie. Well. Same thing happened with Yote. Yeah, it didn't sell well, so yes, Tsushima woke. Reports come out, data comes out, did just fine, outperform Tsushima. Like, how many times are we going to do this? You're going to do it for literally 6 years and still keep doing it? We're just going to do this for 6 years? And a 10 bomb comes in from Hidden Siryu and gets us to 117. Thank you so much. It's pushback against people saying everyone's waiting for exclusives or they move hardware. I don't understand what you're saying. Impairment losses against the sale price. They overpaid and are correcting it. That's not what they said. I mean, that's a great theory. That's great. In the absence of information, that could be a great theory. That like, well, they decided that they overpaid, so they're taking an impairment loss. Thank you for the gifted Broken Earth. Broken Earth's going to set up a 5-bomb dunker so somebody can steal this next milestone of 125. It's not a theory. Yes, it is a theory. Lin Tao literally said why they're taking the impairment loss. You're factually incorrect. You're wrong. They did not say they overpaid. They said that their titles had underperformed, so they're adjusting the value. It has nothing to do with we overpaid, so we're lowering their value. They didn't say that. What you're saying is fabricated. They literally said why they're lowering them. Why they're taking the impairment loss? They've underperformed. Their title's underperformed. They said that in the earnings call. We know why they did it. Thank you, Broken Earth, for another gifted. They overpaid based on sales projections. They never said that. Thus, the asset value is less. They never said that. What you're saying is false and made up. They never said what you're saying. So you're running a narrative instead of running with facts. The facts are they lowered based on performance, not based off of like, oh, well, we thought they were this. Now they're not. We got to lower it. They said, yeah, they underperform. We have to lower them. They're worth less. Now, there's an assumption that like we projected them to generate this much revenue and they didn't, so we're taking an impairment loss. But they literally said, they did not say, your initial statement that I pushed back on was they overpaid. That's not what they stated. They didn't say we overpaid. They said they underperformed. We're lowering them. We're taking an impairment loss. I work in equity as a CPA. Parsons sold a bill of goods that they couldn't deliver. Okay, well, your initial statement might be factually true on paper, but they didn't say that is my point. They didn't come out and say, yeah, we overpaid for them. Their valuation was $2.4 billion. We just lowered them by 1/3. Now, here's the thing. At the point of purchase, if they were generating X number of revenue annually, their valuation might have been accurate. And if they've declined in revenue generation, which they undoubtedly have, then that's not, oh, we overpaid. You didn't overpay. That would be like saying you overpaid for your house. Well, I bought the house for $500,000 and then they put a strip mall behind my backyard and property value went down. Yeah, you overpaid. No, the property value lowered after I purchased it. At the point of purchase, frozen in time, that asset was worth $500,000. They softened it for shareholders. I just think logically what you're saying is not true, because if you buy an asset at that point of purchase, that's the valuation. If it lowers in value later, you can't like retroactively like, yeah, we overpaid. If I buy a house and at that moment it's valued within the property and you get the guy to come in, you get the banker, you get all those different people to come in and assess the house's value, and they're like, yeah, this house is valued at $503,000. And you buy it for $500,000, and then your backyard suddenly has a strip mall in its eye line, and the value of the property plummets, you would not be able to say you overpaid. You would say, yeah, well, I mean, the house is worth less now. So they're like, yeah, Bungie's worth less now. They're not worth what we paid for them at the time. Now, you could be right. I actually think you are right. I think Pete Parsons oversold the company's value. I do think they overpaid. However, my pushback was Sony didn't say that. Sony did not say we overpaid, that's why we're taking an impairment. They said this company underperformed, we're taking an impairment. I think that's the key. You're saying they softened it for shareholders. I think they're doing it to lower the final payout. I think they're playing 3D chess with Bungie. Bungie messed with them, pushed out Marathon to try to increase revenue and value. And Sony's like, yeah, well, we're gonna take an impairment loss on you as an asset, which means you're worth less, which means we pay you less at the end. I don't think they said what they said because they were like trying to soften it for the shareholders. I think they're quite literally saying your final payouts in relation to your value, and we're going to lower your value. Because there was the IGN article where they said there's a growing fear at the company they're going to just ship Marathon before that final payout and then leadership's going to walk. I think the timing of Marathon shipping before final payout is on purpose. I think both can be true. They overpaid, but the trigger for the impairment was the investment will not bring back the money we expected, so we are reducing our evaluation to something reasonable. Correct. My only pushback wasn't that I think you're incorrect on the basic paper of history, right? Not on the actual books. On the paper of history, I think Pete Parsons oversold them and they overpaid. My pushback was Sony didn't say that. Sony didn't walk out and say, yeah, we overpaid for Bungie. We're lowering their value. That could be true on lowering value. I don't disagree there. Okay. do you understand my pushback? I wasn't trying to be like, oh, get out of here, dude. That Bungie was worth that much money. No. We're in agreement they weren't worth $2.4 billion. But my pushback was Sony is I think, playing a very careful game here. They aren't walking out and saying, yeah, we overpaid. That would make them look incredibly stupid. And number two, the impairment losses, I think, related to the final payout. I would assume execs got Sony stock, so it's hard to reduce payout if that's the case. Yeah, I don't know. The way that they did it and the way that the bonuses and the retention and all that, I don't know if we ever got the full details on that. They weren't worth $2.4 billion. They were worth $3.6. Oh, Fuzzy, you know why I'm saying 2.4. There was 1.2 in retention that wasn't part of valuation. It was like bonuses and stock options or something. I don't know what the frick it was. It was 1.2 paid directly to employees to stay, basically. Those employees were worth it. Yeah, but as far as the asset's value on paper, I think that's not included. I don't think that's included, right? Yes, I know. Okay. Well, then you're being pedantic. I'm being correct in saying on paper they think the company's worth $2.5 billion, not 3.6. Cash on hand is part of valuation, and the bonuses were essentially cash on hand. So when they're looking at their assets, though, Zubair, and they look at what they think Bungie's worth, I don't think the bonuses are included. That would be a weird way to basically say, yeah, this is how much we think Bungie's worth right now. Like, let's just say they went to sell Bungie. They would be like, well, no, you can't sell it for 3.6. 1.2 billion of that purchase price was for bonuses. That wasn't what we paid for Bungie. We paid 2.4 for Bungie and 1.2 for people to stay. The 1.2 was not part of it. They already said that. Yeah, I think that's been almost explicitly stated that that's not part of the valuation of the company. And that payout will vest, and those are still there next month. Oh, for the people that are still there next month, right. I think we're in agreement overall, just view the impairment slightly different. Right, yeah. The only reason I was quick to push back is it was like Sony didn't come out and say what they said, and the reason I was quick to push back on that is I think Sony's playing their own version of chess against what Bungie did, which is why they wouldn't say, yeah, we overpaid. Would Sony recoup money via tax breaks due to impairments if they turn around and sell Bungie? Yeah, I don't know. You're stepping outside of my ability. I understand very basically the valuation, the bonuses, what the impairment means as far as the asset is worth less, and what that probably means for incoming downsizing and layoffs. As soon as you get beyond that, you're out of my reach. Like, my understanding just evaporates. I don't know enough to commentate on that. You'll notice I'm I'm staying in a very narrow circle of commentary here. This is about where my understanding presides. They thought it was worth this much. They overpaid on purpose to keep people, and they amortized it so that the actual operational costs weren't insane the first year. It was hitting their operational costs every year. This is the last year and the final payout, and then they'll no longer be getting hit on their operational costs with the purchase of Bungie. That's the extent of my understanding of it. I wonder how the earnout is structured. If it's revenue based, the payout's probably smaller than anticipated either way. That's why I think contractually Marathon shipped. It was revenue based. They knew this is the theory. This is the theory. And you're a financial guy, and you've been following me since 2016, so I know you're not in here just blowing smoke. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought because somebody put something in the Discord about GTA 6, and I thought maybe something was happening. Sorry. So let me float a theory by you. Hang on. Kino Mansky with the member plus 7 months. Thank you. And a $2 super chat from Forget Me Not. Nobody talked about Death Stranding 2 sales like this. I wonder why. Yeah, I mean, that budget was probably significantly higher, and it wasn't first party, so all the money doesn't even go to PlayStation. Okay, so this is the theory. The theory is that somehow baked into the contract of the final payout is based on revenue, as you're speculating. Okay, as you're speculating. I think Bungie crunched the numbers and said a standalone marathon has a better chance of moving millions of units versus an expansion in Destiny. They saw the writing on the wall. They saw what was happening with, Destiny sales, and they thought if we break off Marathon, sell it as a standalone, it'll sell more. And then that'll add more revenue, which will then either protect them from what they knew was a declining Destiny 2. And as Parsons said, we were operating in the red. I think the layoffs were also designed to protect them. Like, hey, if we lower operational costs, then revenue and profit and all that will stay in a better place. So that's what I think. I think they literally shipped Marathon. I think they were playing a game. That's why I think the people that like Marathon, I think they did a real disservice to you guys. They had you guys convinced like this was some big new game and they were really excited about it, and I think they knew it was a lame duck. I think from moment one they knew it was a lame duck. It was designed to generate more revenue than an expansion or a piece of content in Destiny, and it's designed to maximize the payout to the leaders who are going to leave. GTA 6 wait has fans flooding Rockstar with bad Google reviews. Yeah, I honestly thought today was going to get disrupted by them dropping the trailer and the pre-orders. I honestly thought it was going to happen today. You know when they're going to do it, right? They're going to do it next week on Tuesday, 2 days before the earnings call, as I'm sitting in Florida, unable to stream. Many first-party studios likely could incur an impairment cost, but they are fully integrated, so they fall into operating costs as opposed to line items. Imagine how much money Media Molecule is burning. That's F if true, says Zinthos. I think that's what they did. Yeah, those retention payments were made recently. It's why there's now layoffs expected post-June and update ship. Yeah. That was my theory. Oh, no. I was looking at the calendar, Omar, and I'm like, they're going to drop this dadgum trailer on Tuesday and open up pre-orders, and it'll be 48 hours of just an absolute burn of just hype and excitement and money, and then they'll be able to strut into the earnings call and say, yeah, 2 days ago we dropped the trailer into pre-orders. Don't you come here, pal. I'll go where I want, buddy. Incredible Black, it's good to see that you're fluent in, in like white terms of endearment. You know what I mean? Calling me pal. It's good to see you being able to, adapt to the culture. Buddy, pal. You're doing great. That's good. I'll stream for you. No, thank you. Thank you for shedding more light on this. They take an income statement hit, which does help tax implications, but Sony was very profitable as a company overall. I expect large layoffs and an announcement that content's over for D2. Age of Triumph style send-off. Yeah, so we're in agreement. Me and JCP over here on Twitch, we are in total agreement here. Incredible Lex says, here we go, cancel him. What? You called me pal. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a big step for you. You didn't call me Unk. You know what I mean? You call me pal. I mean, I'll take it. I'm just saying. Code switching is the term you're looking for. No, we code switch. Y'all... We need a different term for what y'all have to do. It's not code switching. Hi, Lono. You forgot to answer my member super chat question, but hang on. Kino Mansky, do you really think Bungie is technically capable of doing a D classic with the tech that they have? Also, replace is really good. You should finish it. I'm not going to finish it. I couldn't stand the combat and the movement the more I played it. So, no, I won't be doing that. Rahul was funny. Us unks. Yeah, he knows. We're in our 40s. We're the unks now. We're the unks of the gaming world. I don't know what you mean by tech debt. Eh? Banned from every cookout. What do you mean? Why would I be banned from every cookout from congratulating you on your use of the word pal? Like, what in the world? You don't have the authority to take all my invites away, brother. I've earned at least 15. I'm up to about 15 invites. So you better cool it, or I'm taking all my red Solo cups back to Costco. Okay? So let's just calm it down before we all do something that we regret. All right? I think we could have gotten an event like Menagerie. I don't know how to spell it. No, you're good. Every season. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by tech debt, though, Kino Mansky. Like, why couldn't they just take a D1 Classic? You know, oh, I do, pal? You can't claim code switching now, too? I'm culturally appropriating code switching. I mean, I guess you guys do have to code switch more than we do. I think that's fair. I never really thought about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're in your car talking with your buddy, you know what I'm saying? And then you go into the DMV to get your license renewed, and it's yes, ma'am, yes, sir. Yeah, that's probably fair. I've got it backwards. Oh, gosh. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, you know, I don't really have to do that. You guys are nicer to me if I don't. And I'm there like, well, we like that he doesn't, you know. It's the expectations is that I better not. Oh, frick. I'd like a venti. Oh, I'm code switching now, buddy. Yeah. I actually want to know, how hard is it for y'all to go to Starbucks? Having to say things like venti. Oh, frick. Oh, shoot. You know what I'm saying? You go through the drive-thru, I bet. You're not walking in. Like, I ain't gonna walk up to I'm not walking up to the cashier and saying friggin' venti. Dude. I use the app. Oh, see, I knew it. Oh, yeah. Drive-through app, got it. Don't have to say it. Get out of there. No, you know I'm right. You know I'm right. He literally admitted it. He's like, I use the app. I'm not about to go walk into no frickin' Starbucks, have to say venti, mocha, or frap, or any of that. Nuh-uh. Not me. Nope. App, drive-through, thank you. I'm out. Yeah. See, I knew. Zubair's like, they're not from a different planet. And yet, Zubair, very quickly admitting that I ain't going to no Starbucks. I was right. You're just mad that I was right. I use the app. Oh, that's good. I walk in because I get a discount. We love a good discount. That's fair. That's fair. You know what I mean? Oh, gosh. Tech Debt is taking a shortcut and end up paying for it in the long run if you had a team that could remaster Destiny 1. Oh, my gosh. Doesn't that hurt, Paul? Doesn't that one hurt? Remember when I said that shutting down Bluepoint was short-sighted and they shouldn't have done it, and they have like a treasure trove of IPs that could be remade? You could have found something for them to do. Oh my gosh. I can't go in there and order. Some chick's going to see me and think I'm soft. See what I'm saying? I know how some of this works, okay? I'm not too dumb. Yeah, I mean, Bluepoint could have made a killer Destiny 1 classic. They really could have. Bungie should make a single-player looter shooter in the vein of Borderlands. Well, certainly, I've had some people say that. They're like, well, what Bungie could do is Bungie could kind of get back to just making like a really good single-player game, right? Here, I think is the significant challenge that they would face in doing that. The challenge they would face in doing that is their current size and their current operation costs, like annually, it basically necessitates a live service game. Does that make sense? Like, I don't necessarily think that you could be like, oh yeah, here's a big single player game, or let's say, Borderlands is co-op or whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't know if they could just do like a single player game. Like, there's too many employees. There's just too much. There's too many departments that would have like nothing to do if you just launched a single player game. They've literally like institutionalized the live service into their DNA. I don't know if you could just, if you want to do that, you'd have to cut the studio in like half probably. She sees me and she hooks me up. Mm-hmm. See, that's the point, though. You had to order it at least once, and that was probably a tough day for you. But now you go in and get your usual, right? She knows you, so you don't have to say it. Like, yeah, that makes sense. I just go to Tim Hortons and keep it simple. Yeah, so I don't necessarily think Bungie could survive and thrive off of a single-player game. I just don't think so. I don't think that they would generate enough revenue. I don't think they would generate enough anything. I just don't think so. I think that the challenge there would be, again, they're infrastructurally orbiting around live service. She's fine. I had to go. Yeah, see, now we get the full story. There's so much more to this than IF with Starbucks. Mm-hmm. See, you're literally proving my point. You're like, I'm making an exception, which means I was correct. You can keep a focus on Marathon while only dedicating a small team to it. Well, and that was the point of Paul Tassi's article. More than half the company is currently working on Marathon. I don't think that can continue. You can't continue to do that. You just took an impairment loss. You can't keep having more than half of the company working. You know what I mean? Like, working on Marathon, that's expensive. You get blue hair and septum rings. Yeah, see, Mike knows what I'm talking about. What about Gummy Bears? Oh, Gummy Bears isn't at Bungie anymore. They PlayStation spun up a new studio called LFG, and they gave Gummy Bears to them. But Bungie doesn't even have that project anymore. That's another thought, is you just spin off studios. You're like, yeah, spin these 300 people off. They're in charge of Marathon. Spin these 300 people off. Y'all are in charge of a Destiny Classic. Spin these 300 people off. I just don't know. I don't, because, I mean, that's essentially what Bungie was doing that put them in this scenario to begin with, where they diminished the quality and the value and the demand of Destiny 2 so much that's where they ended up. Guys, by the way, we've been streaming for about 2 hours. Do me a quick favor and hit the like button. Try to get us to 300 likes really, really quickly. That'd be super helpful. Thank you guys so much for that. This week on the Gaming Roundtable, we'll be joined by King David from the Iron Lords podcast, Reforge Gaming and Scrag, break down why Bungie. Oh, this is going to be... don't miss this. Going to be a fun one with King David. You guys don't want to miss that one. That's going to be a fun show. Kirk says, would Destiny folks be really unhappy if half of Bungie started working on a modernized version of D1 with new content for a current live service framework? No. I don't... They wouldn't be unhappy at all. I think they'd be super happy. I think they'd be super happy. What is LFG working on? I just told you. They spun up a new studio. I think it was from people at Bungie. The new studio is called LFG. That studio is working on Gummy Bear. That's what they did. They handed that project to them. The intro song is called Bring a Calculator. Oh gosh. That was good. That was a good moment. Listen, it's Kirk's always good for Game of the Year predictions. And what I mean by that is he's good for ones that we can all just get a wry chuckle about. You know what I'm saying? It's good. It's good. It adds a little spice to the show. You got to have a little bit of that, like, willingness to just call a pretty crazy shot. Shirts that go hard. I put the gay in I'm gay. Okay. I mean, that'll do it. Who do the heads of Sony owned studios report to? Herman Holst. Herman Holst is over the studios. Yeah. Which he should not be assessing live service viability because I think he's clueless in that regard. I think he's far better over studios working on stuff like Horizon. He thought that frickin' Concord was going to be huge. No. If you have somebody assessing viability or, potential popularity of a live service game, it can't be Herman Holst. You got to get him out of the room. You put him over the single player studios because that's where he's good. He does a good job there. He does. Mixtape aggregate score has gone down like 6 points since that take. I'm waving the white flag. Now, I tried to tell you, I said, if you get more scores, if you get more reviews, it's going to pull it down. It is really, really hard. And I mean, I'm explaining this to you, and I think even then you knew. Like, if a bunch of more reviews come in, it won't be so high. It's really hard to hold on to scores that high. It just is. I mean, if you have 30 scores, and then you have 35, and those 5 people were more tepid and kind of and give you like 7s and 7.5s, your score is just going to drop just like that. It's extremely hard to hold on to a high score. I've watched scores drop because of one score. Saros went from an 88 to an 87. One outlet did it. They dropped a score that was down in the mixed category 60 or something, and it was a 3 out of 5 stars. So the aggregate tool interprets a 3 out of 5 stars as a 60%. So I don't blame Hearst on the Concord decision. Yoshida walked in and gave him a venti and temporarily impaired his decision making. Didn't Holst create Horizon? Yeah, he was there like at the inception, and then he was kind of over time. And Drug Doc with 22 months, thank you so much, bumping the line to 122. At 125, I owe you guys a member. Whoever hits it gets it, by the way. Thank you guys so much for being here. Oh. The only thing I have heard that is good about Mixtape is the soundtrack. Yeah, that's why people are enjoying it. It's a nostalgic injection right into their heart, and then they come fresh out of the end, they're like, it's so good. And people are like, calm down. Everybody just needs to calm down. On both sides. If this Bungie tries to make D3 on their own, it'll be a mess, says Banshee. I mean, this is the thing that is the big unknown. How many leaders are leaving? And what does Sony intend to do in that power vacuum? Right? There's going to be a power vacuum. If you suddenly have all these people leave. So, do you promote from within, or do you pull folks from other studios? Do you put some Sony homies in there to be like, hey, we're in charge now? Thank you for the Prime, Revertive Cloud. When you guys sub over there on Purple, you'll never see an ad. That is an advantage to subbing and watching over there. And it supports me. If you guys are paying for Amazon Prime every month, you might as well. I bought Mixtape reasonably cheap on PlayStation. I want to know what it's like. All I hear is it's amazing or the worst thing ever. The people that are angry about it, I don't even think have played it, which is kind of par for the course right now, is people are angry and critical of games, they've never touched. So, yeah, I don't think it's nearly as good or as bad as many people have claimed. I just don't think so. So, I've seen what Bungie in its current state can do. Well, here's my pushback on your assessment, Banshee. Bungie in their current state had Pete Parsons in charge. And not only Pete Parsons in charge, they ran the company into the red by spinning up all these incubation projects. So what the current Bungie was doing in Destiny was barely anything, and that's part of the leadership's problem. Appreciate the content and dialogue, Lono. Got to run. Have a good rest of the stream. Thank you, JCP. Do you see where I'm coming from, Banshee? It's like you're like, oh, I know what the current Bungie can do, and it's like, yeah, the current Bungie has had, bad leadership, and bad planning. I mean, he ran the company into the red. The issue with UE, Decima would be a better engine. Well, yeah, if you bring in Decima and you bring in some guerrilla guys to help with the shooting mechanics, I think that could certainly help. Can Decima do an MMO? I don't know. I mean, do we know what engine they're using for the Horizon MMO that's going to be on mobile? I don't know if that's in Decima. It's fine for a studio of 800 people to be working on multiple projects that aren't Destiny 3. We just have no evidence they are being utilized efficiently, which is cause for a lot of the distaste. If 800 people are on a game with 7,000 players, that makes no sense. Well, that's why I think people are saying build Destiny 3. My argument this morning was essentially that. I think layoffs are coming, all right? If you're going to be using that many people and that much money, then you have to have a project worthy of that. And I don't think Marathon and Destiny 2 are worthy of that investment and that money. I just don't think that they are. They don't have enough. They're not generating enough revenue. That's the issue. Like, Destiny 2 will never return to a revenue threshold that can justify, like, rubbing the paddles together and be like, let's do this one more time. Let's go for a 3.0 moment. Let's do it. Let's bring everything. No. You got to put that thing into coast mode. Age of Triumph it up. Have a live team supporting the cycle through of I don't know, classic content, raids, dungeons, whatever. Do what they did with Destiny 1 Age of Triumph. And then you got to do the same thing with Marathon. You got to cut the team down to almost nobody because it's not generating enough revenue. It just isn't. Marathon in its current state, even if I entertained the notion earlier this morning, like, what if season 2 turns it around and they get back to like roughly where they were earlier this season? What if they do that? There's 5,000 people playing right now. The decline is just measurable. You can feel the dadgum decline. Like, off-peak hours are down in the 3,000s now, right? Your peak hours are barely getting over 10,000. You get into 11,000 on your peaks, okay? So let's say they are able to make this rebound in season 2, and they get back up into, like, I don't know, the 30s, 40s, and 50,000 peaks, okay? I still think the concern is that's not going to be generating enough revenue to have more than half of the studio working on it. It's a lame duck, boys. It's a lame duck. On Steam, yes, and Paul Tassi said that according to Bungie themselves, 70% of their sales are Steam, which means the numbers look worse on console. He has no reason to lie. His contacts at Bungie have no reason to lie. It is not a viable product anymore. It isn't. It's okay to admit that. Bungie's admitting that internally right now. They have to be. Over a month ago? So you think the game had a reverse sales curve? There's no evidence of a reverse sales curve. Like, not even remotely. Not even remotely. They're claiming that Soros sold about 300,000 copies. And you know what? Marathon has twice as many reviews as Soros. Soros has been out for 2 weeks. And Marathon's been out for how long? And it has twice as many reviews. So it stands to reason, if the Alenia analytics are to be trusted, once again, like, yep, Soros doesn't look like it's selling that well. Okay, then that means Marathon didn't sell well either. I don't think there's been a surge of interest in sales and purchases on console. I just don't think so. Chronic Spin Dash with 55 months. Add a mantle to D1 Classic and some quality of life. And I'm in there like swimwear. Let me add it to the total. We're 1 away from 125. Listen, if there's over 20,000 people playing the game, please stop. What do I need to stop doing? You can't possibly think that that's viable long term. Marathon's player count will always go down near the end of seasons. I got respect for you being the last person willing to even make some of these arguments, brother. Everybody else has just conceded that the game's a non-starter, and it's pretty much over. Even fans of the game are like, this ship is sailing right now and sinking at the same time. It is done. Even the people playing. I got people in my Discord that have just come to grips with the fact that this game ain't gonna make it. I respect the fact that you're still making the same arguments folks have been making all this time. Respect for the willingness to do that. This thing is done. I cannot fathom having your company's valuation reduced to 2/3 of what it was at the point of purchase and continuing to invest in this game. I can't imagine it. There's no way it's generating enough revenue. Even if your speculation about player counts are 20,000 people are playing right now. Okay. That again, that doesn't translate into the revenue that the company Bungie size needs. Kenshiro was 16 months. Let me add it to the total. There it is. Keep in mind, this is the same company that is upset that Destiny is pulling 200,000, and you're trying to make the case that 20,000 is okay. The game is going to change and evolve. I have no problems getting into matches. It has a dedicated player base. All I hear are ridiculous comparisons to games that have like 1,000 players or less. If that's all you hear, you're not listening to me, because I've not once said that. I literally at the beginning of this conversation said, let's just imagine the player base numbers bounce back and you see Steam hitting 30s, 40s, and 50,000 player peaks. I don't think it's going to generate enough revenue to have more than half of the studio working on it. You're not listening to my argumentation if you think I'm comparing it to like small games. I'm not doing that. I haven't done that once today. I'm not looking at other live service games and their 1,000 players or what have you. I'm not doing that. And to say that all live service games decline near the end of the season, really, then what's this game's excuse for declining since day one? This isn't decline at the end of the season. This is decline since the day that it launched. It has never not declined. It has one 9-day period where it didn't decline. One. From April the 9th to April the 18th. There's a 9-day period where the numbers did not decline. The entire time this game has been out, it has been in decline. It's not an end of the season decline. The game has perpetually been in decline since it had a server slam, not even launch. Since its server slam, it's been in decline. So you think they're going to shut down a game that maintains 20,000 players or more? Why would they not? Like, I don't think PlayStation's going to shut it down. No. I think they're going to strip the team down to a very lean size, very low production costs, and they're going to let this thing coast into nothingness because that's where it's headed. You never said numbers didn't decline. You postured as if it was normal for the numbers to decline at the end of the season. My pushback is they've been declining the entire time. It's not declining at the end of the season. It is just continuing to decline. If anything, you would think by now it wouldn't be declining. You would have a floor. You would have a point where it just stops declining. It hasn't stopped. That's been my point from the beginning. Marathon doesn't need 800 devs. Tell that to Bungie. More than half the studio's working on it, dude. Do I know? Am I paying attention to the game more than fans of the game? According to Paul Tassi himself, more than half of the studio is working on Marathon. You, at some level, it seems like you agree with me. The game doesn't justify that level of bandwidth and money. Don't we agree that the game released unfinished? What's that have to do with the conversation? Are you arguing the optimistic side of that? That like, well, it launched unfinished, give it time? I would argue it launched unfinished and that led to its expedited demise. As somebody who's put in around 120 hours into the server slamming since launch, I actually love the game, but I knew off rip it was destined to fail. Poor management, odd art style, extraction, etc. Bungie's entire studio is only about 800 now, so around 400. No, more than half, meaning somewhere above 400 to 500 is working on it. Okay? Let's just say 450. Okay? What that means is, I think that the difficulty in doing some like analyzation of this is, you're like, well, around 400. Let's just say 450, because according to Paul Tassi, more than half, which means it has to be higher than 400. Let's just say 450. That means 450 people are working on Marathon and not something else. That's called opportunity. What is that called? Opportunity loss. Like every time you're working on something, there's something else that you're not working on. Right? This is one of the dilemmas I have as a live streamer. Every hour I spend live streaming with you guys, I'm not making uploads, right? That's an opportunity loss that I experience as a content creator. There are people that don't live stream every single day. They don't live stream every day. So they can be spending 6 hours a day playing a game, getting footage, and writing a review. And then they'll ship, one video a week. When they're doing that, though, they can't live stream. That's an opportunity loss for them. They're focusing on this instead of that. So the same rule applies to these studios. When you have 450 people working on Marathon, that's an opportunity cost. They're working on Marathon and not something else. So eventually you have to assess, is this something that we should be doing this? Does this even warrant this? I don't know if you watch gameplay of Far Far West. It has 8 devs and it's a pretty polished game and is in pre-release, solid game. They invited me and granted me early access. I just didn't have time to play it. I think it looks great. I'm looking forward to it hitting 1.0 and landing on console. It could do very well. A small team like that, nice and lean, they could hit really good sales thresholds and players and be just fine. I think they are slamming out content internally and will reduce the number soon, maybe 200 to 300 devs. How do you have 400 people working on a singular game mode? I'll tell you what they're doing, S3 Plan. I think they're attempting, and this again is only based on what we've been told from Tassi, who has sources at Bungie. If you have more than half of the company working on Marathon, and we have not seen significant shifts in content and deliverables, I think they're probably trying to do a full court press for the season, for season 2. Yo, thank you, Chrono, for the raid. I think that's what they're doing. And if that doesn't put life back into the game, then they're probably having like a completely different conversation. Halfway through that season, they're having a completely different conversation. That again, that's just my guess. I can't look at Marathon right now and see any evidence of half the studio working on it. I mean, I don't know what you guys see, but I don't see evidence of that. As a D1 player since Taken King as well, let's not forget that Bungie has burned their player base over and over, so they have zero support or rapport with their community, and stealing art too. People don't like that. How does Season 2 make money? How many will actually buy a Battle Pass? I don't see evidence of more than half the company working on Marathon right now. So my thought is, if more than half the company is working on Marathon, they have to have something significant planned for June for Marathon. And if that doesn't work out, I think they'll just yank all those people off of that and bring them back over to whatever the heck they're doing with if there's a Destiny 3. I think they're working on Season 3 and 4. Season 2 is already feature complete. That's fair, Legend. You know what they could be doing? They could be literally doing this because they're getting ready to put Marathon and Destiny into Coast Mode. That's actually not a bad theory at all. Think about it. They know Destiny 2 is about to go into Coast Mode, so you start bringing people over from Destiny. You got more than half the company working on Marathon, and they're literally, it's just multiple parallel development teams that are basically saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. You guys work on Season 2. You guys work on Season 3. We're going to put this game into Coast Mode. It'll all be ready and it'll all be good to go, and then we'll just have a small, lean live team that can make sure these things get pushed out and updated. Everybody else is going to be doing big project over here. Check Detective Seat's Twitter. He's a Sony leaker and tweeted a few days ago about the upcoming layoffs. I don't think people from the people that I read the tweet. I think it's speculative. I don't think there's anybody that knows anything about Bungie's layoffs if they're not at Bungie. I think that was pure speculation. That's fine. Everybody speculates. I speculate, but I don't think that was a leak. I think that was speculation. Full reveal of Season 2 will be on May 25th per the new blog post. Really? Again, I think all that's already planned. I like that theory better. I was thinking maybe they're going to try and pull out all the stops and have like a crazy Season 2 moment where they add a bunch of content and they get everybody really excited. I actually think it's a far better theory to be like, no, they've got more than half the studio working on Season 3 and 4. They literally need a Taken King level hype for Marathon to survive. The conversation surrounding Marathon, even from start, have been negative. No, I don't even think, again, I don't think they're going for that. I really don't. I don't. I think they have most of the studio right now working on Season 2 and 3, and they're going to put the game into Coast Mode after as soon as Season 2 hits. And I think they're going to pull everybody up and off if you're not a part of that lean team that gets left behind, that live team, and everybody's going to be working on something else. And I think that's I really do think it's Destiny 3. Sony should have Bungie make a new SOCOM, says Ninja of Shadows. I mean, I just don't know if there's a big market demand for a SOCOM. And I know Creature loves it and wants it to happen, but I just don't know. I just don't think so. I don't think the market right now would be receptive. That's a lot of money to have Bungie working on a SOCOM. Red Hawk says, just wish Marathon wasn't an extraction shooter. Love the vibe and the style of the game. I mean, there is certainly room for a bunch of PvE content in Marathon. I just don't know if that's in the cards. Bungie can't do SOCOM alone. They need another studio. Yeah, you'd almost need to pull in guys from, Guerrilla and use Decima. But Fair Games, I think Fair Games should get canceled. I think Fair Games and Horizon Hunters Gathering should get canceled. I just think those are complete wastes. Those are such wastes of bandwidth. The thing they'd have to do for SOCOM to work in today's market, hard sell. Yeah, I think it'd be tough. I think it'd be tough to get SOCOM off the ground in today's market. It would, yeah, and plus you're asking Bungie to do third person as well. Season 2 to 4 would need to revitalize their existing player base and bring in new players. I just don't see it happening, says S3 Plan. I'm sorry, but how on earth could they do that? You might be misunderstanding what I'm saying, or maybe you didn't hear me say it. I think they're having more than half the studio work on Marathon right now to build seasons 3 and 4 so they can just let the game coast. I don't think they want to continue working on it after that point. If Bungie was owned by a company that had great supporting studios like VV and High Moon, well, I know you're being silly, Fuzzy, but I think that's always been their problem, is that Bungie requires, and this could be related to their engine, they require so much bandwidth and money for it all to work. Professor Parker, thank you so much for 9 months of memberships over there on Purple. Like, they needed Vicarious Visions and High Moon to have some of their best times in D2. I just think that's always been their struggle, is they need so much money and so many people to operate. And again, this could be related to Tiger. They need someone at the table who doesn't work in their company bubble. Well, and like Hiroki Totoki said when they first acquired them, like, they need to have, some more accountability with spending. I mean, they had knitting classes and stuff. Like, the operational cost of the company, being inflated by stuff like that is kind of absurd if you think about it. $5 from Ninja says, trust me, people are begging for an alternative to COD. That's why Battlefield did so well. The market would respond to a great multiplayer like SOCOM. I mean, I don't know if they would respond to third person, though. I just don't know. In my opinion, Arc Raiders did irreversible damage to Marathon by setting the example of what an extraction shooter really is. I'm glad people like Arc looks fun, but Embark casualified the extraction market. Well, no. I think that's a complete and utter misdiagnosis. I don't think Embark casualified the extraction market. I think Embark met players where they were. I think the hardcore guys and I think the dudes that want like a crazy, sweaty, hardcore extraction shooter, I think it's really hard for y'all to realize that no one's going to make a mainline game for you. It's too expensive and you're too small of a community. You got Tarkov and Hunt. Make the best of it. Nobody is going to take a crack at this after watching Bungie do so poorly and Arc Raiders do so well. Nobody's going to take a crack at trying to satisfy and scratch the itch that you have as like a hardcore extraction shooter fan. Your preferences are fine. Your desires for a game like that, there's nothing wrong with that. This is just basic business. They're not going to do it. Nobody casualified anything. Arc Raiders met people where they were. People are like, yeah, I want a game where I can kind of chill out and hang out with my buds and have fun. And Arc Raiders is like, say no more, fam, here you go. And I think people have completely missed the forest for the trees. I think it was Ghost of Hope who tweeted and said that Arc Raiders went downhill when they started appealing to the casuals with aggressive-based matchmaking. And I'm like, I don't think you really understand the timeline, because aggression-based matchmaking has been active in the game within the first month of it coming out. And it was a roaring success when that was going on. I do not think that the people that were playing that game casually and enjoying the prox chat and the PvE aspects, I don't think they are the reason the game did poorly. Chastising folks for doing the PvP, though? I mean, I've seen the clips of people being ridiculous, of somebody ratting or betraying, and I think that's all a bit absurd. But again, I think the bulk of that player base, I mean, we saw the player numbers. A third of the player base is like explicitly PvE, a third is like explicitly PvP, and then there's like a third that's like somewhere in the middle. That means that 66% of your audience in Arc Raiders is not playing the game for hardcore PvP extraction. That is the majority. We looked at the numbers the one day. It like breaks down almost perfectly. It's like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. That means the vast majority of the people playing Arc Raiders are not looking for a hardcore extraction PvP experience. They're not. Ergo, you're the minority. Nobody's making a game for you. They're not. Not with a big budget and a big team. No way, because there's not enough of you. Madden Mills, thank you so much for 12 months, and that gets us to 127. There is not enough of you. There isn't. That's the dilemma that you're always going to face. I agree, but the game isn't done yet. Destiny didn't peak numbers. How far into Destiny's lifespan? Destiny started with a far bigger audience, and it took a lot longer for them to plummet. Marathon started with a very, very small audience and plummeted immediately. You're lumping PvPvEers with PvP militants. Are you saying I'm doing that, or are you saying that the games are doing that? Arc Raider 100% made extractions casual? No, it didn't. It made a game and people came and played it. It's called an emergent property. The audience came into Arc Raiders and played it in a way that I said was going to happen. I said, I believe that there are people who are sick of PvP. Operation Friendship wasn't just a gag that I did for lulz. I believed it in my heart of hearts. I was like, I've been covering games for a decade. I think the casual dads are a huge audience, and I think they're freaking sick of sweating and fighting and PvPing and getting stomped. They want a game where they can chill and have fun, and that's exactly what they got. They got a third space. They got a place they could hang out. They got a place they could chill. And the PvP sweaties and the extraction sweaties, they freaking hate it. They hate it. Why? Because that's who they want access to. Look at what happens the minute Marathon's player base shrinks and the sweats have to keep facing the sweats. They moan and they complain. Why? Because they don't want to sweat against sweats. They want to sweat against PvE players. They want to sweat against casuals. That's what they want. They want to beat up on people that are trying to get loot and trying to get out. And the minute they can't get there, they're like, this is too sweaty. Oh, I thought it was a hardcore extraction shooter. Why don't you get good? That's what you told everybody week one. That's what you told everybody week one. Get good, bro. It's sweaty. It's hardcore. What's the problem? The problem is, and it's the same way in Arc Raiders, they want access to the PvE players. Why? They're easier to kill. It's funny. They like to do the gags. They like to do the backstabs. They like to do the betrayals. They're not trying to sweat against sweats. That's why they don't like aggression-based matchmaking, because it puts them in a funnel with other sweaty players, and they don't like it. That's why they smurf. It's why they do all sorts of nonsense to try to get access to the PvE boys. and they'll blame Arc Raiders' decline on the PvE guys. And it's like the PvE guys are the ones that kept playing. The casuals are the ones that kept playing. Or they resort to glitching an encounter and griefing the people doing it. Oh yeah, that was remarkable. I'm really surprised Bungie's being soft on that. I would have given that guy a temp ban. Accidentally finding an exploit is not the same as doing it over and over and over again and streaming it. That's a temp ban. I'd have banned him for a week or two and been like, no, that's not accidentally finding an exploit and then being like, oops, I got outside the map, my bad. That was knowingly engaging in what I would consider to be a form of cheating. Like, that was cheating. That wasn't just an exploit. It wasn't, oops, got outside the map. It was, oops, got outside the map. I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to literally ruin people's run in cryo. That's a temp ban. That's the easiest temp ban I've ever seen. Hey, we've concluded that this wasn't an accident, and the TOS says accident. This wasn't an accident. This was willful, volitional, exploitative, griefing, cheating behavior. You're done for 2 weeks. I'd have pulled that trigger so dadgum fast, it'd have made his head spin. I'm like, no, and you were promoting it and streaming it, 14-day ban. You're out of here. That wasn't an accident. They need all players they can retain. I mean, come on. Let's be serious about this. It's not going to hurt them to ban a couple of players for doing something like that. I'm just saying it's possible for Marathon to be successful. The game's only been out for 2 months. If it's possible for the game to be successful, they need complete turnaround of multiple things. They need to turn around the entire company's rapport and morale in the public right now. And I don't think that's going to happen. So they need that. Okay. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. That's a funny picture. That's a funny picture. Hang on, I got to save that. That's worth tweeting later. Me and Rahul. Find somebody that looks at you the way that Lona looks at Rahul Kohli. Okay, here we go. Save image. So they have to completely change their entire, the morale, the rapport, and the public trust. Not only do they have to change that, they have to change public interest. They have to change public interest, man. The interest in the game is just not there. I kept trying to tell people, I'm like, I don't see it, boys. I don't see it. The trailers and all the content, it was not doing well. And, at the end of the day, that's what a live service game needs more than anything. You need public interest. You need eyeballs. You need people talking, playing, vibing. Directory, dead. Content funnel, dead. Interest in your game, dead. It's like, okay, you got your core audience. If you're going to turn that game around and turn it into a success, you need a full court press of, I don't know, significant amounts of content. Not only the significant amount of content, you need you need people to care and want to buy it and play it. So the people that have kind of made up their mind and kind of said no thank you, how do you get them to come in and play? If they're like, yeah, I don't really like extraction shooters. I don't really get down with that. That's not really my thing. That's not really my vibe. But there is public interest. It's the most searched game on SteamDB. Shut up. Shut up. If interest is dead, why is everyone still talking about it? Okay. People are talking about it because one of the biggest companies and one of the more sizable acquisitions in recent history just got devalued in front of the watching world. This is Bungie we're talking about. These are the guys that made Halo. These are the guys that had one of the most successful live service games in history. Interest in its death is not dead. Right, people are interested in watching the game die. Either they're doing it in a celebratory fashion because they're mean and toxic, or if you're like me, I'm interested from a pure business aspect of what the heck is Bungie going to do long term? What? Really wild playing Saros after watching Rahul last night. It's fun, isn't it? But the point is it's like this is a significant moment in Bungie's history. You know, Bungie's gone through quite a bit. They went from Microsoft to Activision to by themselves to PlayStation. And I think one of the reasons, didn't we hear rumors that like somebody avoided them because of the way they burned through cash? Did you mean for the scheduled thing to be visible? Yes, sir. It's meant to be visible. I wasn't going to say anything. I know you guys get pings and dings and you're like, oh my gosh, another cool event? Another surprise interview? Yes. Yes, another surprise interview for you guys today. Any interest is good interest. Isn't that the saying? I don't think necessarily anymore, no. I don't think any press is good press, no. If the interest in the dialogue around your game is that it's bad, dying, and not worth playing, that's not good, because who's gonna buy, right? Who's gonna buy? Like, who's paying $40 for a game that looks like it's dying and players are leaving? Like, you're not gonna do that. That's bad for your game. If it's free, it's a little different because it might motivate people to like go in and see what's going on. You know, what's all the haps? But like freaking $40 game, that's not good for you at all. You treat us again, you're the best on YouTube. All right, I'll officially announce it. So we've been trying to do more interviews and get more folks on the show. And so we had Middle-Aged Gamer Guy on, we had Mag, we had Eric Cuts for the Win, we had Erica, we had King David, and then just yesterday, surprise of a lifetime, honestly, got to interview Rahul Kohli about Saros. And today, in about 1 hour, I'll be joined by Colin Moriarty, and we're going to talk about the state of the industry. I reached out to him, and he said, hey, I'd be happy to come on the show, and so we scheduled it. It was supposed to be last week. It got bumped to this week. So now you're getting a double header. You're getting Rahul Kohli, and you guys have known for a while, like, I really want to have a conversation with Colin. I feel like we agree on a lot of things. I remember during my ABK coverage, people kept coming in and they're like, you sound like Colin Moriarty. Do you watch him? And I'm like, I don't know who you're talking about. We have similar ways of communicating. I think we're in similar age brackets as well. So that'll be here in an hour. So double header on the week before I take a break for you guys. And really excited to be talking to him. And I've been saying, Trill, the difficulty with trying to network on Twitter is you can't DM people anymore, so you have to ask in view of the public. And every time I ask in view of the public, the cancel pigs descend on the tweet and stir up crap. So I just decided to shoot my shot, and I was like, well, if they do, they do. Harbinger with the Member Plus, thank you so much. Let me bump the line to 128. We love Last Stand Media. I really, really like those guys over there. I like anytime I've seen clips or segments from Sacred Symbols, I'm like, man, these guys are doing great work. So thank you, Harbinger. I appreciate that. Congratulations on all the interviews. I appreciate it. Thank you. So excited to talk to him. And we've spoken briefly in DMs. So it'll be also just sort of us kind of like meeting each other for the first time. Like, we've never really interacted all that much. All you have to do is be smarter than Smash JT. Not hard. Not a hard bar to clear. Yeah. Well, I mean, that guy reacted to my Ghost of Yote coverage, and I didn't even bother watching it because I just don't. That kind of content doesn't interest me. I applauded Colin's willingness to go on and do that show with him. I applauded his willingness to do that, and I thought he handled it very well. So anyway. Yeah. So that'll be a fun conversation. We're going to kind of walk through, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, as time allows. So and then hopefully we can have Lord Cognito on. I want to have him on. I want to go on Iron Lords as well. We're talking about how to do that. They still have the thing they recorded with me that I would love for Iron Lords to publish. I think they're looking at maybe publishing that after we get through showcase season. So Smiley with 52 months. Rahul and now Colin. Can't handle the excitement, Lono. Good stuff. Thank you very much. I'm bumping the line to 129. Is a Colin interview on this channel? It will be live in an hour. Here, I'll just put up a timer so you guys know. Colin Moriarty interview. Today is the 13th. 1 p.m. set start. Did I spell his name right? I can't freaking see. It's so the text box is so small. There we go. So we Creature and I had a phone call and was like, you know what, folks try to paint you as like this terrible dude. Let's just start having folks on the show and show that that's not the case. Like, bring the vibes, maybe rebuild some bridges here. And, so we're going to continue to have folks on the show that I feel like are either of interest. Like, I want to talk to Colin. I wanted to talk to Rahul Kohli, or just being like, hey, you know what? These are some people that are on the opposite sides of issues of me, but let's have them on and let's talk about it. Like, I loved having King David on the show. That was fun. Funny thing was, we agreed on quite a bit, even though he does like to do kind of the console warring and the showmanship. I'm going to be on the roundtable with him this Friday. He's going to be on the gaming roundtable, and that should be a fun time. I just beat Saros, and the post-endgame power trip runs are fun, but the combat was so annoying, falling through gaps all the time and enemies attacking from sides and behind. The off-screen damage is probably the most common form of damage, and then there are parts of the Yellow Shore where I fall all the time, and I'm like, you just don't see the gap. It just gets a little chaotic. Alex coming in with 44 months and a member plus. We're exactly 20 away from 150. He says, I'm summoning a 20 bomb. Also, the day you put it in Discord that you reached out to him, I was hoping that it would pay off. Well, I appreciate that. I think he might have even seen it because you guys were replying and saying, hey, I'd love to see this. So he sent me a DM and says, yeah, I'd be happy to come on your show. And then I just emailed to schedule it. And a 10 bomb comes in from Detective Seeds and gets us to 140. Hoping for a tag team. Why aren't you promoting that? What do you mean? I tweeted the Rahul interview and I put it in the Discord. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Just dropping through the show some love. Have a great stream. Thanks, Seeds. I appreciate that. Had a crazy morning. We'll check the VOD later for the Destiny talk. Thank you, Sethians. Microsoft thought that, Bungie burned through too much cash too quickly. They didn't want them. Yeah, they didn't want them. You guys that watch on Twitch, you'll have to watch the interview on YouTube. I like to do the cold starts and get everything set up for the interviews. And then I do feel like it's good to have that content kind of in one place. It's easier for me to manage all the screens. It's really hard for me to do that. Yeah. It's a struggle to get gifting. I would if I could. I completely understand. It's random, brother. The gifting's random. The more you make sure you're toggled to receive them, though. You might not have toggled it on. So 9 months from Sean Torrey. It's only 9 months. Feels like it's been years. I wish I was part of your journey longer. Glad to see you firing back up these interviews. Thank you so much, Sean Torrey. It's getting us to 141. Appreciate you, brother. Knitting is expensive. Yeah. Of course, they burn through too much cash. We can tell by the car purchases. Well, and this is something, there's a clip floating around of Skill Up way back on the DCP podcast talking about, like, they have all these people that they hired, and they have all this stuff, all this bandwidth, and it's just like, it's hard to see evidence of it. I think it's been a continued struggle for them. I think the engine's just very, very slow. I think it's really, really hard. Toggling gifting on YouTube can be challenging on mobile. Okay, it can be. Moriarty got kicked off kind of funny because he was arguing mobile gaming will never be as big as consoles. No, it was a joke. It was a joke. They literally kicked him off. It was the most ridiculous thing. He's a co-founder. I didn't realize that until this morning when I was researching. Like, I know him, seen the clips, watched some episodes, like his stuff. I really like when they have Jaffe on. I didn't know he was a co-founder. I was like, wow, that's absolutely ridiculous that happened. So. Hello, it's been a crazy this week, but looking forward to a few streams from the last 3 days when I'm free. I appreciate that, Nitro. Thank you. Yeah, guys, do not hesitate go watch the Rahul Kohli interview and then make sure and like it and hype it. That is obviously very helpful to me to have that kind of an interview on the channel. That was really cool. It was a cool moment when he literally said he wanted to talk to me. I was like, what? Like, that was his desire. And it was because with the work that he put in, he wanted to talk to somebody that was a huge Returnal fan. And I did not realize he had been consuming my content, and he made a mental note. I'm circling back to this guy when Saros comes out. And so he stopped by the Twitch stream the day that the game came out and like dropped some members and was really sweet. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so we connected that day. I was like, let me DM you. I'd love to have you on the show. And he was like, yeah, definitely. And that's how it happened. So you never know. You never know who's watching your content. You never know. Will you read super chats during the interview? I typically do not require super chats to get my attention, but that is a stronger way to kind of like wedge yourself into a show like that. I didn't really do it with Rahul. I think Colin will be more accustomed to that. Like, he's just in that world, taking questions, super chats, that kind of a thing. That won't be like awkward or like out of order. But when I had somebody like Rahul on, I just really wanted to focus on the conversation with him and not look at chat. If you guys could understand that. Like, I didn't think you guys were like bothered by that. So, yeah. He made a joke on Women's Day. It was a funny joke, but kind of funny. Greg and others didn't agree. They freaked out over Me Too cancel culture and asked him to leave. Yeah, I've had people say, you know, we've been through similar things. He's been a lot more successful than I have recovering from cancel culture. He's been a lot more successful than I have. Maybe I should have moved my show to Patreon. Maybe that was a mistake we made all those years ago. Did you have to drop that Venti to get that interview? No. I was sad I missed that live. I watched it last night before I went to bed. Such a great interview. Nice to see you getting things like that after the 2020 crap show. I appreciate that, Nova. Thank you. So, I only ask because I like Colin, but when he says it makes no sense why Xbox would put Steam on Helix, I feel like I'm going to have a stroke that he doesn't get why. Well, I don't think it's lost on him why. I think he's looking at the business angle of it. There's no business angle. I don't think he's like, I can't believe they're going to let Steam be on a Windows machine. I think he's like, why? Why are you making this thing? I think that's a fair question. What's the point? Like, I am interested in Xbox's next hardware for Steam. Listen to that sentence. It's weird. It's freaking weird. Yeah, I'm interested in Xbox's next piece of hardware. Yeah, why? Oh, so for Steam. Huh? That was one of the main reasons I want y'all to collab, and the fact that y'all talk similarly. I think it's because we're from, you know, that northern sentimentality. Like, we're of similar age and similar demographic of, like, just, like, that section. Like, I've always gotten on with guys from, like, New York, Chicago, that part of the country. We think and talk similarly. Tenor dude with 56 months in a VIP. It was great to see that interview. Now let's get Celine. Oh my gosh. If I got to interview Jane, oh my word. That would be a freaking interview. Holy crap. I love her work in Returnal. Hello from Chicago. Yeah. It's because people are fed up with Windows and Linux and starting to capture market. Sure, the SteamOS. I think his questioning of it, though, Ninja, is if you're Microsoft, why are you making a machine that allows people to completely avoid you? It's just weird, brother. You know what I mean? Lono is giving you guys 55 minutes to get your dictionary and thesaurus apps ready, so when they get rolling, you don't get lost. Lono, you're from the Midwest? I'm from northeastern Ohio. Like, I don't know. I keep saying they're not going to allow Steam. Who's going to buy a locked PC? Who's doing that? Who wants a $1,300 PC that's locked down then? I don't get it at all. What's the draw? They get data because it runs Windows? That's not terrible pushback. I mean, well, they'll be able to record all your data and what you do. They don't care if you use Steam. I mean, I think that's fair pushback. I don't know. They want to make deals with EGS? Listen, have you ever been to Canton? I'm from Canton. That's where I grew up. What do you mean? I moved here 24 years ago. I moved to Louisville, Kentucky 24 years ago. I consider myself a Kentuckian, you know, drinking bourbon and saying y'all. But heart of hearts, the way I talk, think, and the way I communicate, I'm from the North, boy. You know? It's just the way it is. I don't think they're letting Steam on. I'm more than willing to bet that they won't. Well, if they don't, you know what I mean? If they don't, it'll be really interesting. His questioning comes from the business logic. Creating a new hardware platform and allowing the biggest PC platform to undercut your sales more than already do is the reason. Don't ask me how they market and sell it. Yeah, without Steam, it's just such a weird product without Steam. It really is. It really, really is. It's like, what? What is it at that point? I don't know what it is. I'm telling you, Project Helix bewilders me. Lord, I just want to say, you're the man in Returnal and Sorrows. I wish I was as good as you in those games. I'm on the second boss, and I'm like, dang. Yeah, you know, it's... Thank you for the $10 super chat. It's hard for me to sort of divorce my ability to play those games from my, like, assessment of how difficult they are. But you can definitely get those mods and really, really up your strength and your viability. You really can. Would you buy the Helix if it didn't have Steam? No, I would not. I don't need it. It doesn't do... Without Steam, Helix does nothing for me. I don't need an expensive PC for my living room to play my back compat Xbox library. Like, what the frick? What am I buying it for? To deal with the Xbox store? No. Have you beat Bastion for... You have to beat Bastion to unlock mods? Not necessarily true. You can fail a lot and it'll give you the mods as like a, hey, we're sorry you're having a hard time. Yeah. It'll if you fail too many times, it'll just unlock mods for you. So you don't necessarily have to beat Bastion. Yeah. You're selling a console anyway. Why not make it attractive to all consumers, console and PC? I keep going back to Windows 11 trying to be more like Steam OS and cut the bloat. They're not stupid. I don't know. It feels like they're going to try and advertise it on as everything but other storefronts. Thank you for the... Wait. What happened? Oh, it's up here. James with the Prime, 7 months. Thank you so much, Mr. James, getting us to 143 on the week. Halfway done with the interview, 10 out of 10, so happy for you. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Come on, homies, don't forget to like the stream. Like the stream, boys. Hit it. Okay. It's just not the move. I don't understand the device. If it's like a high dollar closed PC ecosystem, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Why make it, again, if Wheezy's correct and they're more focused on expanding their OS, like, okay. I'm just kind of at a loss. I'm just kind of at a loss. Like, what do they really think that's going to give them any kind of an inroad? I just don't know. Like, what in the world? The device isn't even going to sell that many. You're not going to sell that many units. I feel the same type of way. I feel some type of way you didn't use the picture I made as your thumbnail for the interview. That I would never do that. Stop thinking like Lono. Think like Microsoft, where you assume you are the heavy in every room and you'll throw money at problems. I mean, I guess who is thinking that there's ROI on that? Haven't they thrown a lot of money at at the Xbox division already? I mean, through acquisitions, and I don't know. I just don't know. The whole thing feels weird to me. It really does. I need a break, though. I need a quick break. So, guys, you got about 47 minutes. I'll have Colin on the show. I will end a little bit before that so I can get the scene set and redirect you guys and all of that. But give me just a second. I'll be right back. Okay. Xbox is competition to PlayStation, like AMD is competition to NVIDIA, which is pretty much not competition. Did anybody do anything while I was gone? Okay. We're super close to 300 likes, guys. Make sure and do that. We'll be shifting gears here in about 45 minutes. I legit cannot imagine what the point is. Congrats on the interview. Very well done. I'm a little shocked you didn't drop this teaser. Stop with the AI, dude. That's just absolutely out of control, Hattigan. Oh, man. I mean, you know, we're not supposed to announce it for another couple of months, but, you know, the cat's kind of already out of the bag. So, Sorrow Stronger Together DLC. That's absolutely ridiculous. I think I'm shorter than him too, so I don't know. Yeah, it looks like I'm on a step stool. You know what I mean? Although, yeah, look, there's my waist. Yeah, you totally have me on a step stool there. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, dude. What are your thoughts on PS Plus at this point? I don't know. It's fine. It gets solid games on a regular basis. Recent round of games is, pretty good. This is the gayest thing I've ever seen, and I mean that as a compliment. Oh, gosh. Helix will be their last console. After that, they'll license it out. That's why I'm like, why would they bother not allowing Steam on it? Because I'm kind of on that wavelength of, you know what I mean? I'm on the wavelength of like, if they're doing this to get out of hardware, to like give them a road to just OEM devices that have this Windows, this like trimmed down version of Windows and the Xbox mode or what have you. I'm like, if that's their goal, then why would you limit Steam on the Helix? If Helix is a bridge to that reality, I don't know. That I'm on that wavelength, so I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you not have, a Steam, marketplace on the Helix? This is their way out of making hardware. But then on the flip side, it also just doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, if I can put Steam on it, what is the point of this thing for Microsoft? Like, you're going to let me put somebody else's, storefront on it. Season 2 begins on June the 2nd, says Marathon. They've just announced this. As the season comes to an end, we want to embrace the feeling, liberated chaos, fresh start for everyone. Okay, to that end, our goal with update 1.09, okay, coming next Tuesday, is to amp up some of the rewards you can get to make your runs more lucrative and more exciting. Locked room keys are guaranteed to drop from Wardens the remainder of the season. Additionally, map events like Intercept, Lockdown, Warden Spawns, Convoy, and Anomaly will now be a guarantee on each run, so you can benefit from the better rewards. Escalation in forces. Expect increases in UESC presence across Tau Ceti in response to runner activity. New Warden encounters. Wardens can spawn as new POIs in Perimeter Dire Martian Outpost. UESC dropship flyovers and crash sites. UASC aerial activity has increased dramatically on Perimeter. Use this as an opportunity to seize their supplies. Stay vigilant. They'll be deploying a new threat on Dire March to help shut down runner activity. Cryo Archive will be increased availability. Before it closes, the map will be available every day starting on May 21st through the end of the season. So starting next week on that Friday the 21st. Oh, I'm sorry, Wednesday. Next week on Thursday the 21st. It'll be available for the rest of the season every day. Players looking for the Ultimate Challenge will be able to test their mettle. Oh, we'll also be sending you a free Cryo Archive sponsor kit to your mailbox every day during this time. Players looking for the Ultimate Challenge will be able to test their mettle at Cryo Archive Ranked. This special version of Cryo will serve as the grand closure of the Ranked queue for Season 1. So it seems like they're trying to open up Cryo to everybody. Like, it'll be available every day. There'll be a free sponsored kit, and they're trying to funnel your more hardcore players into Cryo Archive Ranked. So it seems like they're attempting to get those folks that haven't really had a shot at it to maybe take a crack. Not that regular Cryo, note, regular Cryo will not be available at the same time as Ranked. Oh, never mind. This special version of Cryo will serve as the grand closure. It'll be available May 24th to the 28th. Okay, so for the final 4 days, looks like. Through the end of the season, we're also increasing faction experience gains from all sources. Use your additional faction progress to reach the end of the season goals that you got your sights on. And then balance changes and updates to Rook. Signal Mask remains active for longer when sprinting. Thank you, Verbal Stampede, for using your Prime over there on purple. The range at which AI will detect your footsteps with signal mask is active. When it's active, has been reduced. Key template changes. They have not been fun to engage with. Getting down and losing your key has created an incentive to play extra passive and hide somewhere on the map until you can exfil as quickly as possible. For that reason, for the rest of Season 1, templates will be changed to be compromised rather than fragile. We think hunting for matter fixatives that drop from commanders and other enemies will be a more interesting way to charge your keys. This will also prevent the keys from being destroyed during the match and allow you to possibly loot these keys off of the crews you best. 5 pounds from Metal Rules. Bungie needs to be deleted from existence. Remember Halo forgot Bungie. Okay. New ways to find keys. We'll also be creating new places for deluxe keys to drop, so there's now another chance for valuable loot on every map. After 109, there'll be a chance for deluxe keys to drop from every safe that you loot. Is Lono doing Waiting Room 69 on May 19th? Why are people now theorizing that it's May 19th? I can't. I won't be here. When Season 2 begins, Marathon will go through its first ever seasonal reset. The goal is for everyone to have a clean slate and equal footing at the start of the new season. It's a time where the community can explore what's new, discover what's valuable, and chart a new path through the season together. These resets include things related to gameplay progression. You'll keep your achievements, non-seasonal codex progression, and cosmetics. See below the full breakdown. Yeah, I don't really care about that. 2 things worth noting. You will only receive the emblem of your highest rank you reach. So if you get Diamond 1, you'll only receive Diamond Runner. All other rewards will be additive. Rank titles are available for you once additional season after you have to earn it. They're available for use for 1 additional season after you earn it. Okay. These are it. These are the things here. Okay. Glacial Impact Destroyer Shell style. Toolkit. Okay. Check this list before reset. Yeah, I'll be okay not doing that. Secure sponsored kits for Season 2. Nightfall is coming on June the 2nd and brings a new Night Marsh zone, a new runner shell, new weapons, new system to customize your runner shell stats called the Cradle, faster faction progression, several quality of life updates based on your feedback, and more. Stay tuned for more details. Talos Principle 3 is bringing Serious Sam Studios' acclaimed philosophical puzzle series to an end, and it's coming soon to PC. Oh, okay. Red Dead 2 lands on PS Plus May 19th, the last Tuesday before the conference call. Oh. I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with GTA 6's next trailer and pre-orders. I don't know. Okay. The GTA community will keep choosing random dates until it drops. The big season update is that. New map, new runner, new stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is, they've not really signaled that they feel a need to dramatically change, update, or add anything. They've got people that like the game. They've got people that have continued to play the game. And they're going to continue to give them what was promised. Nick, you're an idiot. Like, you know what I mean? It's not enough. Right, like, I get where you're coming from, but Bungie hasn't signaled, like, oh, yeah, we really need to give you guys more and do more. I mean, they have signaled they're willing to do changes and updates and evolution. Like, they want to evolve the game, for sure. But the point that I'm making is... like, if they started signaling that, you'd have grounds to be like, oh, I can't believe that's all Season 2 is. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not defending the game. I'm saying they haven't signaled this vision or this sense of like, oh, man, we got to make sure we give you guys a whole lot of more content. No, like, they're just going to continue doing their thing. They're just going to maintain, par for the course, keep things going. And I think I don't disagree with you that, like, dropping some substantive PvE, or PvE is an option, could bring a bunch of us in. But I don't know, man. The ship feels like it's sailed to a certain degree. I don't even know if they did that now, if I would give the game really the time of day. I'd stream it and give it a try. I'd be like, okay, let's see how this feels. Because I could see my wife and I playing it. We've been loving Dead Zone Rogue. We loved Borderlands. We actually never really got to play Destiny together, and now we're at a time where we would. We're actually at a time where we would probably put in a ton of time in Destiny, on the couch, on streams with you guys, and grind and play and get loot. But, obviously we can't do that because of whatever, whoever at Bungie didn't like me or whatever. But the point is that, like, I just don't know. I don't know if too much time has passed. Will a lot of people be like, yeah, I'm good? And even then, I already bought the game. I wouldn't be coming back and spending a large amount of money unless I absolutely had to. I'd be probably just... maybe if they sold Battle Pass or something, I felt like I needed them. Still see it going under 10K in Season 2 against E2 will be brutal. I stand on my ground. By June, it's struggling to maintain 9K. It's doing that now. I don't know, man. I just don't know. If they manage to get a resurgence from a new season, if they manage to get a resurgence in the new season, again, the question becomes, can they... can they generate enough revenue off of the property? I think that's the fundamental question that Bungie is looking at. Is like, we're a large company. They need revenue. Colin has criticized Bungie, but also criticized the hate train for Marathon. I'm sure he'll agree. It's not looking good in terms of player count. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that. We're going to be talking the state of the industry. We're going to walk through Xbox, PlayStation, and if there's time, Nintendo, because even Nintendo's having a I don't know. Like, they're looking fine, but they're also having to kind of, like, not be so bullish with their projections about where the Switch 2 is going to land as far as, like, their sales. But it's still selling it stronger than Switch 1, but it's looking like it's going to start to drop down and pace Switch 1, which is not a bad pace to be at, if I'm honest. For 1 week, the player numbers will go up and then they'll plummet back down. My bet is the resurgence barely hits 27. I'm kind of with you on that. I'm not dooming and saying the game, isn't going to have any kind of a bump, but I don't think the bump's going to be that significant. So, I'm not seeing where anyone said new map. Huh? Nighttime variant is classified as a new map. I thought the thing I read said new map. Did I misread it or misinterpret it? It's possible that I just misinterpreted. It's a nighttime version of the map. New Night Marsh Zone. Sorry. I read New Night Marsh Zone and assumed that was a new map. Because that's kind of how they talk about their maps, right? They talk about them as like zone, don't they? I don't know. I misinterpreted it, I guess. New Night Marsh Zone. New runner shell, new weapons, new system. New Dire Marsh. It's a new map setting. I mean, they're saying zone. Okay. What's it being at night do, though? Does it do anything, like, significant? I'm assuming that means that, like, conditions will be different. Like, more bots or something? Yeah, I mean, it says new zone, but what they're saying is it's a new, it's night, I guess. I don't know. Big stream, Lono. Thank you. It's spooky, that's what's new. I mean, I like map conditions changing. I think that can be I think that can be cool. I just, yeah. Yeah. They have not revealed the full details on what the differences are? Okay. It's supposed to be similar to what Ark does. How long is this live going for? I was studying and I'm taking a break and I find you still here. In 27 minutes, we'll be shifting to a new live stream. I'll be interviewing Colin Moriarty about the state of the industry. He is from Last Stand Media and the Sacred Symbols podcast, if you're familiar. No way my favorites are collabing. So excited for you. Thank you. Oh, you guys are getting the 30-minute notification about the stream. Yeah, I scheduled it about like 40 minutes ago. I appreciate it. If you guys missed it, I also got to interview Rahul Kohli yesterday about Saros. That is on the channel. When you play Destiny and Destiny 2, did you ever play Trials of Osiris? Here and there, not much. It wasn't my jam. I was a PvE guy. I had people carry me regularly through Trials. It's like the Blizzard change on maps in Ark is a thing, but it's not some massive shiny new thing. Same map, new lighting. Did you ever play Halo 3? I'm pretty sure I played like Halo 1 all the way to 5. Like I would play through the campaign co-op with either like a sibling or a friend. I don't remember much from any of those games though. I'm extremely excited for this interview. My two favorite creators collabing. What a day. I'm glad you guys are excited. It's not a bad double header. Not a bad double header getting to interview Rahul yesterday and then Colin today. It's, pretty pumped. It's been fun to reach out and have people willing to come on the show and do interviews. It has been. I think you could do a PvE version of Cryo. I think they could do a PvE version of the whole game, but I don't know if they're willing to do that. I think they would view that as a pretty significant concession about the game they built, and I don't know if they're going to be willing to do that. Because I think the risk that they run doing that is you end up with identity degradation or dilution, and the existing audience that is already shrinking rather rapidly gets even more, frustrated and quicker to leave. But it might not really pull that many people in. Like, I'm trying to be fair to the request, but, it makes sense for people to say, hey, I'd play this game if it was PvE. Do you really think that's the primary barrier? Or is it just is it a game that just doesn't really appeal to lots of people? Like, oh man, there's an army of people that would play Marathon if it was PvE. Maybe. I mean, maybe. I think the difficulty is just going to be that, again, I think the foundational problem that game has faced since last year is people just don't pay it any mind anymore. They don't pay attention to it. They lost the public's eye. And when that happens, it at some level, it just kind of doesn't matter. Solo culture is changing dramatically. As someone who has almost 200 hours, so excuse me. Solos is becoming super friendly. I mean, the metas are going to emerge, right? Like, there's always the chance for toxic metas to emerge, but there's a chance for, friendly metas to emerge. To say, hey, man, this is we're kind of all in this together. Let's just try and get some loot and get out. There are a couple of things that are still redacted for Season 2. Streamers will start calling it Marathon for Babies or something if they opened it up for PvE. I mean, let them. Let them. I think there's a certain amount of exaggeration that people do internally when they sort of picture how these things are going. And I don't know if sometimes it matters that much when you potentially have, like, streamers saying, like, a negative thing like that. Like, it could inadvertently be really good for Marathon to have a bunch of streamers angry saying, this is Marathon for babies. And I'm going to reference something that feels weird, but just track with me. There was a time where every single time there was a Fortnite tournament, Epic would intentionally obliterate the meta with something like a boombox or a sword or the mechs. You guys remember Courage? Remember Uncle Jack raging out in the tournament and quitting because of the mechs? I think Epic did that on purpose. I think it was a 900 IQ play. We're going to let people kill streamers with really casual, cheesy stuff, and the watching world's going to say, I'm going to go play some Fortnite. I'm going to go wreck some of the really good players with a mech or a boombox or a sword. So it could be in the game's favor to have a bunch of streamers, screaming about the fact that, like, yeah, it's Marathon for babies. Well, the watching world and the viral clips is going to go, maybe I'll go check out that game then. Do you see, like, the folks that are attempting to, like, indict Arc Raiders for being too casual or being, like, uncreators or whatever, I mean, you talk about a pretty good endorsement for the game to be even more popular and to get even more players. I've said it many times, casual dad gamers are legion. There's a lot of us, and just, we're just not looking to do that thing anymore. We're just not looking to do that thing, dude. I played Quake 2 PvP before I got on the bus in high school, and then I was in Quake 3 and Rocket Arena. I was in a clan. I went to LAN parties in Dearborn, Michigan, and then I played Call of Duty for 10 years. And now I'm 44, and I'm like, I don't really want to do that anymore, dude. Can I just play with some other bros and laugh? Like, do I really need to, like, run to the choke point, try to get a kill, then I die, go to the choke point, get a kill? Yeah, it's so satisfying to get kills and to die. That's just the best, dude. What'd you do in that game? I got a 1.5 KD. And the game before that, I got a 1. Just thrilling. Like, a lot of us have just moved on. It doesn't speak to us anymore. It's just like, bro, I've been there. I've done that. It's like the magic in Arc Raiders that people missed was that you never really knew what was going to happen because of the friendly nature, the emergent nature, and the prox chat. I think that's where the magic was born. And when a game is going to just kind of be the same thing over and over again, more of that meat grinder, it's tough to keep playing because everything blends together. Match 7 and match 77 aren't super distinguishable from each other. I remember distinct moments in Arc Raiders. I remember some of my earliest matches. I remember matches with Madam. I remember matches with my nephews. Why? Well, because they were all so different. I'll never forget a bunch of us teaming up and helping that kid find the door to unlock. A random guy's like, what are you guys looking for? And he's like, oh, it's over here. I'll never forget that. It was dope. I'll never forget the first friendly player I met. I'll never forget playing with Madam and calling her Gwyneth. Get in there, Gwyneth. Like, I held a eulogy for a player that died, and I made the guys come over and stand there. I'll never forget those moments because they're emergent, they're random, they're cool, they're funny. It's not just run to choke point, get kills. Oh, I got a high kill streak that time. No shade to the people that like PvP, but that just all starts to become a static memory. It's like match 7 compared to match 77. The only real difference is maybe I get more kills than the last time. Maybe I'm getting a 2 KD now instead of 1. Not me, but like I'm speaking about the players that actually get better and improve. Like, do you see the point? Like, the point is it's like it gets to a point where for many of us, that ship just sailed. We're just over it. We're over it. It's like I don't need any more of that in my life. I did it for a really, really, really long time. And I've tasted and seen the height of what I'm even able to do in those games. There's a limit on how good I'm going to get. There's a limit on how much fun I'm going to have. And buddy, I squeezed it dry. Pause. Like, ain't nothing left for me in those games. I had a dude walk up to me in Arc Raiders and ask me if I had a good run. He gave me an Anvil 4 and a Venator 3. I don't know, for me, PvP is like playing a sports game. It's extremely replayable and doesn't really get old for me. It's fine to not like it. Many people just do. Here's the thing. I liked it for a really long time, and then I just didn't. I think that's the interesting thing with PvP. I think once you don't like it, it's almost impossible to like it ever again. I can like come and go on like, maybe I'll play too many Metroidvanias and need a break. Too many platformers. There's a time too where like I'll play a rogue too much. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of don't want to play a rogue right now. And then I'll kind of get the taste for it and the hankering for it, and I'll want to jump back in. Like, Madam and I are nearing the end of our time with Dead Zone Rogue. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know how much I want to play this anymore. But I know that's not going to just fade permanently. Like, my enjoyment of PvP, it feels like it's pretty much faded permanently. It's like, yeah, I just don't have a desire. I don't have an itch to do this really ever again. It just isn't there. And that's fine. I don't think that's necessarily an indictment of PvP or PvP games. But I honestly think that's a natural trajectory. I do. I think age plays a role. I think burnout plays a role. I do. I think your just natural trajectory of gamers, the older they get, they're more likely, it's not guaranteed, I just think there's a higher propensity and an increased likelihood that they're like, I don't want to do that anymore, dude. I've aged out. It doesn't appeal to me. My schedule's too busy. I've got kids. I've got a short window of time. That doesn't call to me anymore. I played PvP for 20 years. You couldn't pay me to touch PvP again. Some of it, I think, is related to age because we get slower. And it's not fun to play something that you can sense you're not as good at anymore. Come on. We know that's playing a role. The other thing that I think plays a role is PvP is just super dichotomous. You're either winning or you're losing, right? When the round ends, you either won or you lost. And we all know it's way more fun to win. So if you've got a limited amount of time to play, and if I play for 2 hours and half the games are kind of fun and good and I'm winning and the other half are not, that means I'm spending half of my precious time not really having a great time. I can play a game like Dead Zone Rogue or Sorrows for 2 hours and I'm having fun the whole time. Unless I scrub out and have a bad run or something, which is very unusual once you're kind of in a lane with the game. Like when I was playing Pragmata, a challenge might frustrate me and get me a little salty, but overall, it's 2 hours of fun instead of like, some of the 2 hours is going to be a little tilting or bad or not fun or, make me want to uninstall. I think that plays a role. It's dichotomous. It's like it's either a 0 or a 1. It's a binary. It's like you either win or you lose, and nobody's having fun losing. And when you're a dad, you don't have to be a dad. When you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you get into your 50s, you're like, man, my time's limited. I got a relationship, I got a girlfriend, I got a boyfriend, I got a wife, I got a husband, I got things I need to do. I allot an X amount of hours in time to games. PvP games just fall out of the purview for a lot of us. It's not a guarantee. I think there's a propensity that the older you get, you're just going to fall out of love with them. Some of it's skill, because you get old and slow. I'm way older, way slower than I was when I was playing Quake back in the day as a 17-year-old. After 120 plus hours, I know what this game is. No matter how bad a run I have, I know that the next one's a button click away, and it's constant emergent experience. I really think it just comes down to whether or not you like that. That's the deciding factor. Well, I mean, that speaks to me in a rogue. When you die in a rogue, you're like, let's go again. Who knows what we're gonna get? Who knows what the drops are gonna be like? Microsoft-owned LinkedIn is laying off 5% of its employees, 875 roles. LinkedIn's probably just seeing significant diminishment of use. It just got overrun with bots. It became impossible. You know what I mean? Anytime I used it, I just felt like I was getting hit up by bots. PvP does not appeal to me anymore. I'm 50. I think I aged out. RPGs and single-player games take up my time nowadays. Yeah, I'm telling you, you get into Unk status and your preferences just change. Your preferences change, and a lot of times your preferences change in line with your skill. Ability and affinity are at some level linked. They are. If you can still really throw down in fighting games, shooters, PvP games, battle royale, what have you, if you can still really throw down, well, that's going to affect your enjoyment. Your affinity is naturally going to be, higher. Your desire to play is going to be higher. You start aging out, you start scrubbing out more, you start struggling, Yeah, I'm seeing that, Nick. Talos Principle 3 announced. Platforms of choice controversial. I mean, I think going forward, that's probably going to be a continued theme. I just think with where Xbox stands, there were a couple of games this year that said, wasn't it this year where they said they weren't making their Xbox version anymore? What are you gonna do? It's such a small platform. If you're a small studio and you don't have a lot of money, it might not be worth the money and the bandwidth. It just might not be. Because you might have to do a little bit of extra work. Any of that extra work on Series S, that's going to be a potential, detriment to your budget and your profit and everything else. I think I'd like a multiplayer game, but just haven't been interested in what is out there. The last multiplayer game I played heavily was Apex Legends. I love playing PvP, but after 8 p.m., 9 p.m., it's diminishing return as the night goes on, so I tend to play more PvE. Yeah. Well, and kind of like what you were saying about, like what J Hart's saying about the last game he played heavily with Apex Legends, I also think that's a factor. I also think that's a factor, is that you have to kind of keep playing. You got to stay on top of it. You got to stay practiced. You got to stay on your A game. Because you're going to be going in there and there's dudes that they are eating, sleeping, drinking. That's what they're doing. They are playing that game. They're living in that game. And I think that's a difficult thing to wrangle with if you're just trying to play once or twice a week, because you're not going to stay on top of it. Metas emerge, shortcuts on the maps emerge, exploits emerge, strategies shift and change, and you're like, oh, dude, I'm just trying to play, dude. What's going on here? So, all right, I want to give myself time to have a little bit of a break. So I am going to send you guys and redirect you. We are getting ready to do a segment. I'm going to be talking to Colin Moriarty. We're going to do a podcast sort of about the state of the industry. Excited to have him on for the first time ever on the show. You guys on Purple, there's the link there in chat. I will not be streaming this on Purple. This will be exclusive to YouTube. And that's just because it's way easier for me to set it up and screen share and all that. There's a link in chat for you guys on YouTube as well. So we'll be live over there momentarily. Thanks so much for all of your support. These interviews are a pleasure to do. I hope you enjoy them. So click the link in chat, and I'll see you guys over there in just a second.